Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we kick off a brand new week. We are going to have some fun with one of my best friends in this field. Paige from MUFON, Colorado is here. And, you know, there are very few people who have better hair than me in this field. Katie is one of them. And she's one of the real deals. And I just absolutely love her to death. And we're going to be talking here with some UFOs momentarily. I want to make one big announcement before we start. The Space Travelers Club is officially open. Check the ticker down below. It's going to say how to get there. It's at Patreon. And make sure you go to that link and make sure you grab it. And you can support us with our Space Travelers Club. It's brand new. We're going to be opening up a lot more very, very soon. You're going to hear me talking about it a lot more as well. But it's going to be really, really cool. If I get what's here on there, it's going to be awesome. Let's say hello to each and every one of you. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Laura Lobbs taking home the silver with Andrew the Trucking Gnome with a nice bronze medal tonight. Hi, Roy Boy and Raymond L. How are you? Human Carl, not to be misconstrued with Alien Carl, is here. We love you, Human Carl. And Samantha Hazelwood Gray, welcome back. Kevin, how's it going? Mexi97, Lisa C. Alien Universe is here. Alien Universe will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Les Paul Holland, Chris716, how are you? Smitty, hey, you're back. It's good to have you back, my man. Thank you also for kicking off that super chat tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio each and every night, my man. Susie B, good to see you. And D. Cohen, thanks for coming on in. Ozzy Sue, Brown Dwarf, Sweet Donna Spencer. Looking good tonight, my dear. Ozzy Sue once again. And Kathy Evans, how are you? Moving on down, let's say hello to our next Anna Boeen. What's happening? Hope you're doing well. Ruth Kleber, long time, no time. And who else is here? Our favorite Marine, Black Dragon. Thank you for coming on in, my man. Thank you so much for your service as well. Moving on, we have Sandra Kincaid, Paramarv. How you guys doing? And scrolling on down a little bit more, we have Linda B. and Mexi97. Good to see you both. Hi, D. Cypher. And who else is here? Oh, let's scroll on down and take a peek. Zed Hut is back. Zed Hut will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Moving on, we have Luscious Jules and Jenny White Bear. How are you, Jenny? We love you, my dear. And yes, I said Sandra Kincaid already. So let us move on to the next one. Lots of conversation going on here. I got to scroll through it. Human Carl, Millennium, my man, Pixie Laura. Good to see you both as we continue on with our roll call. Let us say hello to who's next. Richard Elmore. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Yeah, I'm excited. And we've just opened up the other chat room for Bill WD40 to come in and lube us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go in nice and smooth. You know what I'm saying? You don't want ridges. You don't want anything. too scrapey. You got to go smooth, which is why Bill WD-40 coats us all up. All right, Nancy Thames, W. David Page, how are you? Rose Brooks, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here? Dear Slayer, what's happening? Melissa Nicole, thank you for coming on in. Hi, Noble Patrick and Richard Elmore. And who else do we have? Akoths1 on Twitch. How you doing? Good to see you. We got 30 seconds. Hi, the Ferret. And let's see here. W. Decker, thank you so much for your love, man. Appreciate your nightly support of Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's continue on. Jimmy Gonzalez, Free Your Mind. How are you? Marty Burback, thank you for coming on in. 10 seconds. There's Dry Toast. And Skip to Malou. UFO Golden, welcome to SOR Chat. That's about it. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A great show of UFO content tonight. We take a look at cases. We take a look at disclosure, aliens, what is happening from MUFON, Colorado. Katie Paige is going to be here momentarily. Then in hour number 3, we have Steve Stockton from Among the Missing YouTube channel with some great stories once again. Then little Timmy Senor is going to join us as we have the UFO Report. My good friend Katie Paige is the Colorado MUFON State Director, Administrator and Team Lead for MUFON's Archive Research and Reporting System, otherwise known as MARS. She is also a MUFON Strike Team Area Researcher. Yeah, she wears many hats around the MUFON area, and why not? Denver has a lot of weird things in the sky, although it is damn beautiful. It really is. Founder of Colorado UFO Paranormal Research Group, Katie presents regularly to UFO and paranormal teams and conferences. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Visual Communications. And to me, well, I get to call her a good friend, which is the most important. Katie Paige, how are you, my dear? It's always good to have you on Spaced Out Radio.
It's great to be here. And what a great way to spend the beginning of the week on a Monday, and I recognize so many of the names you read off. So hello to all your listeners, and some of them I call friends. And I love the name Dry Toast. That's great.
On YouTube. Best name on YouTube, Dry Toast.
Dry Toast. That's awesome.
It really is. I mean, since you and I last had a conversation on air, so much has been happening in the UFO world. I mean, politically, within organizations. I mean, I can barely go on Twitter anymore, or X, whatever we're supposed to call it, because of all the fighting and infighting that's going on. I mean, ufology has turned so ugly over the last few months here. Maybe give or take 6 months to a year, but especially more recently here. I mean, how do you separate what you're doing from everything that's going on in the UFO world publicly?
I hide in the Rocky Mountains of beautiful Colorado. I stay in my cave. I don't go on Twitter. I just avoid drama. I've had enough drama in my lifetime to last several lifetimes. So I just don't engage. I just don't engage in it. I keep my head down. I do my work. I'm interested in the high strangeness phenomenon, and that's my lane. I just stay in it. So,
I understand that, and that's the easy
yeah.
thing to do, but for somebody who's been in this game as long as you have, you know, is it disappointing or I guess the news that it's always moving, that there's always something happening is exciting, but is it disappointing to see, how this has turned into a real anarchic battle royal at times?
It doesn't surprise me, put it that way. I mean, look at the state of affairs for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Everybody's so divided on everything. Why should this be any different? A lot of distrust, and that's well earned after, 50 plus years of distrust. It's understandable. And then you put in social media platforms on top of that, and it's competitive, and there's just so much going on. So it doesn't surprise me, but yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, I'm always trying to bridge that gap and work together. And on a positive note, I do see that happening within the different fields of the paranormal, so to speak. People coming together and reaching out and trying to divide that gap of bringing in, the UFOs, the cryptids, and everything else like that. So, I do see positive things happening as well. It's not just all negative. There's positive things going on.
You are an experiencer. You are an investigator. You're a researcher. You're an author. You're a presenter. You're a television star. I mean, you have really run the gamut through everything in this field. Out of everything you have experienced in the UFO world over the years, what would be your most important reason for doing what you do?
Meeting people like you, Dave.
Oh, stop.
No. In all honesty, it's meeting all the people. It's meeting friends that all have a lifetime. It's the journey. It's the places you get to go investigate and see and learning from other people. It's meeting pioneers in the field. Meeting Dr. Leo Sprinkle for me absolutely has been a highlight in my life. Just because of his giving nature of his spirit and his time. And I mean, I sound like a beauty pageant winner. World peace. But honestly, that for me, that's keeps me going every day. I know there's a lot of drama in MUFON at times with the upper echelons. But Colorado has a kick butt group here, and I hang in there for the wonderful hardworking volunteers in the organization. And there's just so many great people. And honestly, I know that sounds like a funny beauty pageant thing to say, but it's really true. So there's that the good outweighs the bad for sure. But yeah, meeting pioneers and learning. Before you look around this room I have up here, and it's just filled with books. And it's great to meet people face to face and bypass having to read. Just learn from everybody.
What have you, or what has been the biggest message that you have learned through your years of ufology from those people who you would consider legends in this field? You mentioned Dr. Leo Sprinkle. Okay,
Yeah.
I know you were familiar with the works of everybody from Jim Mars to Stanton Friedman, Grant Cameron, and
Right.
Richard Dolan, many others along the way. For you, what's the biggest message that you've learned through all of this that still pertains to today?
The biggest message, I mean, for me, coming full circle and getting to spend some time one on one with Linda Moulton Howe at Contact in the Desert um, was phenomenal. And I think I like to learn from Linda because Linda, she started out there at our ranch property in Elbert County investigating the rash of cattle mutilations at the time as an investigative journalist. And I just sat back and kind of watched her do what she does best, which was listen to and engage with people. And she has, especially coming from the female point of view, has just hung in there and stuck to her guns, didn't get involved in too much drama. Yeah, I know there's been, bumps in the road with her along the way, but she has just stood the test of time and just has a true passion. And she just blew my mind. And talking to her, and how, how much time she dedicates and how she does this all on her own. So it's the stick-to-itiveness with the pioneers, and also coming in as an experiencer, but I ebb and flow with being a skeptic to a believer. And what I mean by that is I think our military has a lot of black access projects, a lot of secrets that we're unaware of. I believe, the industrial complex, and we have technologies that are at least 40 some years ahead of what the average person is aware of. So I am one of those people like Michael Stratt, who believes a lot of what's being reported is our own secret technology. That being said, I love who was just on the we had Dr. Michael Masters on, and he's like, I was just rereading my book the other day, and he was saying how he has evolved in what he believes. And I admire researchers and investigators that are willing to say, I might have wrote this several years back, but I've changed my mind since then because the evidence shows differently. So I really respect and admire people who evolve, and I think I've evolved through the years as well in what I believe.
Yes, our good friend Dr. Michael Masters.
Yes.
Because of him, I got a strange phone call from a group in Canada.
Oh yeah, you did. What's that? Do tell.
Well, I'm not allowed to tell, but let's just say that I got a strange phone call from a group in Canada that was recommended to chat with me due to Dr. Michael Masters. So I appreciate him for
Interesting.
that.
Well, will we be hearing more about this in the future, Dave?
I'm hoping.
Oh, good. I hope so too.
I am hoping. But, for you, I mean, the game has changed so much. It's become very political. It's become very, very, side choosing. There seems to be all of these different groups that are vying for popularity and support within the UFO community that has never been seen before. Okay. How do you concentrate on good old investigation and reports of UFOs or UFO landings or ET contact when all of this political jargon has really taken the subject by storm?
Yeah, you put your fingers in your ears and you don't listen. I sometimes feel really out of the loop because I don't engage in any of that. And if there's one thing I learned in spending 3.5 years writing that book on the life and the work of Dr. Sprinkle, was to realize that everything we do, no matter what TV shows we're on, what movies we're in, how many conferences, whatever, it's just gone. Like, not that it doesn't matter, it matters, but that's not why I'm here. That's not why I do what I do. I'm seeking answers, and I'm pretty dogged in wanting to know the truth because, hundreds of people were affected by what occurred out there and what is still occurring out there. So if it is the military industrial complex, but if they have liability in some of this, I want answers to that. So I think for me, I just don't care about any of that noise. I really don't. For me, and I know that sounds kind of selfish, and I don't mean it in a selfish way, but really for me, this has been a mission to seek answers to what all that stuff was and continues to be.
It's easy to say, though, I'm seeking answers. I started a radio show because of it, because I didn't
Right.
have the
Yeah.
answer that I want. What are those answers that Katie Page, before you check out on this planet in probably another 40 years, okay, what does Katie Page want to know about this? What are the answers you are seeking?
I'm seeking what reality truly is. I want to know how there's, I mean, Dave, because you go down this rabbit hole quite a bit. And way back, uh, when, oh gosh, I can't think of his name. Lou Elizondo, blah, blah. Lou Elizondo got up on the MUFON stage and said, we'll be having a fundamentally different conversation a year from now. It kind of started something going in my head at that moment, like, oh, I don't think he's talking about like UFOs and ETs and back engineering metals. And I think he's talking about the true nature of reality. And so that's sort of been like, and I know that's kind of going, well, you're not going to get the answers to that. Like, what is life really? Why are we here? Why are people seeing different variations of all these ETs, yet have similarities? Are we manifesting the phenomenon itself? And the more I investigate and the more I research and the more I go on Bigfoot hunts and in all this, I really feel that is an important piece of the puzzle.
I think you were right on that. And I think that the big piece of what Lou Elizondo was talking about back then is what we have been trying to say on this show for a few years now, which is the phenomena is everything.
Yeah.
It's all tied together. They may not like each other. Bigfoot may not like aliens, and Dogman may not get along with ghosts. But the phenomena seems to be everything at once. Would you agree with that, or do you have a differing opinion?
I 100% agree with that. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
because honestly, for me, years ago, since the hitchhiker phenomenon, skinwalkers at the Pentagon, I kept so many things so compartmentalized. I put everything in different little boxes. Everything that's happened to me at the house or at the ranch or over here. These are all different phenomenon. The ghosts have nothing to do with the orbs and the UFOs and the Sasquatch, and everything was all compartmentalized. And then it wasn't really until, and I give Kelly O'Hare and George Knapp and even Jacques Vallée and all those huge credit for kind of bridging that gap or beginning to use the term the hitchhiker effect and starting to recognize that these phenomena are interlinked and intertwined, because I've come to witness that myself, and I believe that. I believe that to be a true fact.
It was not Dave Schrader, and I was just on Dave Schrader's show earlier on, but it was David Weatherly who is the one who pointed me that it's all interactive together. And that's
I'm
the
not
one.
aware of him.
About 4 or 5. He is an incredible independent investigator. He's an incredible author, and he hasn't been on the show in a long time, but he's one of my mentors in this field. And he never gets too high, never gets too low. He lets his investigations speak for themselves. And I just think that, that's the man who really turned me on to the fact that the phenomena is one and all together. And then writers and authors like Timothy Renner and Joshua Cutchin really solved it for me. And the icing on the cake was Grant Cameron when he started talking about that as well. So, I mean, I just look at this as we got about 6 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. I look at this as it's just a wonderful piece of history that needs to be exposed. And there is all this beautiful stuff happening, whether it's scary or not, it's still beautiful.
Can be.
Have you had an experience on your own when you look back on it, whether it scared you at the time or not, when you look back on that, do you think, wow, I just can't believe that happened to me of all people?
It's so funny you mention it that way, because this phenomenon has been with me, I mean, since, gosh, my earliest memories, like 5, 6, 7 years old, especially during the ranch years when I'm 9 to 12. So for me, it's always seemed so normal. It's sort of like that, that joke that I tell people sometimes, like in 1977, this was during the height of the rash of mutilations and all the high strangeness. And that's when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out. And I'm thinking I'm watching a documentary. And I didn't even occur to me that this was fictional for most people. The other, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago, I did a podcast. And when you do really long podcasts, I think this one was almost like hitting 3 hours. You start going into some topics that I typically don't like to talk about. And I found myself saying some things I was like, oh. It occurred to me that so many strange things happen, and that doesn't happen for a lot of people. So for me, it's everyday life. I don't know. Does that kind of answer your question?
Well,
Like,
yeah, it's a life fixture for you, but there's so many people out there who have maybe a one-time experience
yeah.
that sets them on an entire different vision and path. And this
Yeah.
phenomena has the power to do that. Whether
Sure
it's a
does.
ghostly encounter, a UFO encounter, an alien encounter, or a cryptid encounter, even a near-death experience, it
For
sets
sure.
people off. I mean, we haven't even, you add all the investigators together, we haven't even touched the surface of how many different paths there are to investigate. You're somebody who keeps an open mind to each and every one of those paths. For people who are new, wanting to get into this, maybe wanting to, maybe not get on the radio or YouTube, but maybe they just want to investigate it on their own for their own curiosity. Where do they start for you? Where does it
It,
begin?
yeah.
Tell me about
Well, they start where they're interested. I mean, right? Because, like you said, there's just so many avenues to explore. And for me, before ufology, because I was compartmentalizing all these different boxes, I started more with the paranormal, the ghost world, and ghost hunters, and going on these little, you can go on these adventures with the ghost hunters at the time. So I flew to Florida and did the St. Augustine Lighthouse because that was my favorite episode of the Ghost Hunters. The one where you see that shadowy figure like look over. I think some of your viewers will know what I'm talking about. The thing like looks over the thing. It's like a crate. I'm like, I gotta get to the Stanley Light or the St. Augustine Lighthouse, and then of course did a few ghost hunts at the Stanley Hotel here in Estes Park, Colorado, and really got into that paranormal side. That's where I began. And if anybody were to ask me, like Katie, do you believe 100% in aliens? I would say no. There's days I ebb and flow still with the UFO phenomenon. When it comes to the paranormal and ghosts, 100%. Yep, they're real. So wherever, if you're interested, if you had a Sasquatch encounter or whatever, start there because it's passion. The passion is what drives you every day, honestly.
it very much is. It's
Yeah.
the passion. And you know what? It's amazing how much concentration it takes for an experience that lasted 5 seconds,
Right.
3 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe a minute if you're lucky.
Yeah. Says
It's
a
crazy.
lot, doesn't it? It says a lot. It's
The
true.
one thing that I love and hate about this field is never knowing when it's going to happen.
Oh, the
You can
unpredictability. Yeah.
you can feel it happening. You're like, I'm going out. I'm getting this weird feeling. Something's happening out in the forest tonight, or something's happening in the sky. I got to be on my patio tonight. And you sit there for hours, and the phenomena laughs at you. Nothing.
Right. And that question you asked me earlier about what I'm trying to achieve before I die or before I get out. That's what I want. I want to be able to control the dang phenomenon. I mean, right? I want to be able to call up a ghost or call up a UFO or call up a Sasquatch or call. That is a good point. To be able to figure out how you pierce the veil. There's got to be a way because they're just right there. They're just
They
right
are.
there. And I think that's what we're seeking, to be able to just and communicate to the other side. I think that's what we're all really looking for.
I want another landing in front of me.
Yeah.
That's what I want. My dream is to finish up this show one night, or even during a commercial break when I go outside to look at the northern lights or something, or snow falling or whatever it may be. I
Would
want to
you get
walk.
on board?
I want to walk outside, and this time, I hope I have the strength and the courage to walk on board.
I was going to say, would you walk on board? You would, huh?
I think at this point I'm 50 years old. I've procreated. I know my family is in good shape. I know my children are strong, and I think at this point in life I would take that chance. And that is something, as we go to commercial break here, I want all of our audience wondering, would you take that chance? When we return with the lovely and talented Katie Paige, let's get the politics out of the way, because I know she has some very strong opinions of what's going on. We're going to get to those. Plus, in hour two, we're going to get to some case files and some experiences that Katie has investigated with MUFON, Colorado. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. There we go. We are clear. Remember, our YouTube audience can hear us.
I like the 1111, $11.11. That is somebody who is spiritually awakened right there. Paramarv. That's awesome.
Yes. Paramarv
Did you ever have a thing with like synchronistic numbers like that on license plates and dreams, waking up? What is your number, Dave?
You know, the funny part about it is I hate the number 13. Can't stand it. But
unlucky.
But everywhere I turn since January 17th, 1999 at 12:59 p.m., I see the number 513 everywhere.
That's interesting.
And the reason why I know the time and the date it started was because my daughter's birth weight was 5 pounds, 13 ounces.
Oh, interesting.
And the weird part about it is I see it on license plates. I see it on the clock all the time. My garbage cans and my recycling even have the numbers 513 on it.
Wow.
Yes.
And have you looked up what it means?
I've had people read into the numerology thing. I'm not really into the numerology meaning, but
well,
that's just
because they all mean, no matter what number it is, you're on the right path. Keep going. That's every time I look up in my angel number book, I'm like, you're on the right path.
Yes.
But no, I think numbers are synchronistic, and I don't mean to make light of numerology. I think numbers are the language of the universe. I do believe mathematics and numbers are extremely important. So I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying that, the messages are always very positive. I've yet to see one that says, oh, your number's 473. Tough luck.
Let's say hello to Ann Palmer. Let's say hello to Ozzy for coming on in. And Justin asked, what if the aliens told you that you would never return? I'm willing to take that chance. Totally willing. Word Oneist, how are you? Good to see you. Who else has jumped in here? Stephen Stephen Finnegan. Thank you for that wonderful super chat. And the quote from Butch Witkowski. If you want to see UFOs, just look up. Next time you and I are together, I'll teach you how to summon.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, you.
Yeah. I'm not bad myself, so maybe we have double luck.
Believe it or not, it's actually quite easy.
Just have to ask.
Yeah. You just have to ask. Why is my signal low tonight? Where's cable guy Matt when you need him? Geez, we're back. There, it flashed up. Thank you, W. Decker. The old 513 super chat. Appreciate that. W. Decker pays so much attention to all the little things that I say. Thanks, buddy. Who else has shown up here? Yeah, thank you all. I'll say a big thank you. I know we got a bunch of new listeners in the chat room tonight. Just a quick update for you guys that we are a hybrid between a live radio show, a YouTube channel, and a podcast. So we have to take commercial breaks to time out everything with our radio station. So that's why we take these breaks. But you get to see the behind the scenes stuff. So that's why you're still here and you still hear us talking. Hi, Pat Leal. Hi, UFO Whistleblowers, bringing humanity together. And who else has joined us? If you haven't yet, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. And if you read the scroll below, it's not right there yet, but we have a brand new Space Travelers Club. All right. We have kicked it off tonight, and I'm going to put the link in the chat room. So that way, if you feel we deserve it, if you feel we're just starting it out, we're going to be growing it. So if you have any ideas, right there it is. Bingo. There it is. You can join the Space Travelers Club right now. We got a bunch of different packages for you, and we appreciate the love and support. Also, Forrest Louie, how you doing? Hi, Gloria. Good to see you. And I want to say a big thank you to our super chatters, Smitty, W. Decker ×2, Deb, AA Ron, Derek, Free Your Mind, Paramarv, and Louie. Much love, and we really appreciate your continued support of Spaced Out Radio here each and every night. Here comes the next half hour right now. Hi, Dariana. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. We're talking some UFOs and aliens tonight. Who doesn't mind a little aliens in their lives? I know I don't mind. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag, follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can now join the Space Travelers Club by going to patreon.com/SOR_space_travelers_club. Yeah, mouthful. Katie Paige from MUFON, Colorado is here. She's an author. She's a researcher. She is big time when it comes to UFOs, aliens, and the experiences people are having. And we love her around here. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that you have an opinion and a lot of words that you want to say about how political this subject has become, especially with the congressional hearings and the some of the statements that have been given. Where do you stand on all of this right now?
Well, first of all, I know, and my hat's off to my colleagues out there that really follow it tooth and nail, know everything, every detail, and I think that is so important that we have those out there doing that. I am not one of those. I listen. Sometimes I'll listen to it twice, but then I go back to doing my own work, and maybe that's because I'm a little jaded, because a lot of the experiences out there at the Elbert County Ranch. When I went to pull documents about the investigations, we know that NORAD was involved, United States Air Force Academy, Camp Carson was out there. So where the High Strangeness Ranch sits is on the eastern side, basically, of Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs, many people know, it's a hotbed. It's a military town, mostly the Air Force. And then, of course, on the other side of Colorado Springs, you have the San Luis Valley down south of southern Colorado, where we had Snippy the Horse in 1967, and a lot of very high strangeness activity out there in the San Luis Valley. I was just on a show with Christopher O'Brien, a pioneer in the field, and I learned something from him. Again, another reason why I like doing podcasts and talking with other people, so you learn things. And I learned that the San Luis Valley on the south side of the Colorado Springs is one of the most unpolluted spots in the United States, and a great place to actually like a control. So if you're going to be testing and mutilating cattle for nefarious purposes, to be testing, fallout from nuclear waste, or different chemicals in our waters, in our agriculture, that would be a good control area. So there's a lot of high strangeness, and perhaps these orbs and extraterrestrials are actually interested in that area as well, because it's still very highly active out there in the San Luis Valley. So I'm a little jaded when it comes to military, Congress. We've had hearings decades past. It seems like we make progress and then we go backwards. So it's 3 steps forward, 4 steps back kind of thing. I'm always a little leery on I'm happy the whistleblowers are coming forward, and that gives me great hope. But it's also frustrating to sit and watch these new people that are coming in that really don't know the history of ufology. So I'm happy that it's happening. At the same time, I'm not one to just go, oh, let's believe everything. I worry about false flags. I worry about different agendas and control and all of that stuff. I'm not as trusting as some others are.
Okay, so the idea that we seen whistleblowers like David Grush get absolutely raked over the coals last week with his health records coming out and that becoming an issue to whether or not he's credible. I mean, we are really seeing an ugly game being played right now. And, I think it's one, as I've been trying to educate our audience, I believe this is a real battle that we are seeing in real time play between the
Sure.
military industrial complex and politicians who would like to know the truth about UFOs, not UAP. UAP are man made, but UFOs. And I really strongly believe that there is nefarious actions that are being played out there by
Exactly.
both sides, not just one, but by both sides. Where do
Exactly.
you stand on this? Because for so long, it was all about UFOs. And now that we're actually getting insiders talking about this, do you think that's going to scare off more whistleblowers?
I really hope not. At the same time, David Grush and other whistleblowers, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to our military men and women, they are there to follow orders, and so I think it's more so than ever before. It's so important to just listen to your gut, to follow your instinct, and to do your own research, and try to be as unbiased about it as you can be, and be open. So that's why I'm really just I love what's happening. I'm listening to what's happening. I'm paying attention, but at the same time, I'm just kind of sitting back like the rest of everybody else with my bowl of popcorn and my cup of water, and just watching to see what's going to happen. But I do tend to wonder, like, what is all this about and why? And it kills me that these brave men and women want to come out, David Fravor and that, and speak their truth, and yet get raked over the coals. And so it's going to make it hard for other whistleblowers to come forward when they see what they have to go through. It's a way to keep people quiet, right? Just like before, just like we can never talk about what happened to us before because people are going to think you're crazy or shame you or break you over the coals and air all your dirty laundry to the world, and it's just unfair and not necessary.
For you, where does ufology start? Because you mentioned that that people who are new to this really don't have an interest in the history or the knowledge of the history. Where does it start for you?
Well, first of all, I'm an ancient alien theorist. I believe goes back millennia, right? Like in art and paintings. But I think the cover up began in 1947 with Roswell, like so many. That's where the cover up really started, for the back engineering of our metamaterial. And so, the great cover up for power and control started in the 40s, definitely in the 50s, and it's been a game ever since. And I do believe maybe back, I've done research now for years with this Roswell body. There was rumored by a Brigadier General Arthur Exon that one of the Roswell bodies ended up in a mortuary outfit in Denver, and maybe Eisenhower is from Denver. So this MUFON case, actually, it's no longer a MUFON case. The family has since signed it over to me, but for the last 4 years now, 4.5 years, I've been investigating this kind of little sliver piece of the Roswell case with this body and Eisenhower. And I do believe, I'm one that believes that Eisenhower actually did meet with extraterrestrials, that a deal was struck. And I think during those years, there was a group that really had a handle on the cover up and what was going on. I think since then, it's become so convoluted and nobody knows. I don't think there's like a committee of people that are trying to like strategically like cover up like it used to be in the 50s, late 40s, in the 50s, early 60s. I think that it's not as well organized. And I think that's part of a little bit of what they're afraid of, that this is something they're not able to control anymore. You know,
Control how?
I think with podcasting and the way we can communicate now, it's like a snowball rolling downhill. And it's gaining momentum, and more whistleblowers are coming forward, and then they can communicate more deathbed confessions, more. I mean, just a year and a half ago or something, I went and did um, a presentation, and I ran into a higher up in General Electric, and he's a gentleman that's getting up there in years, retired, has lost most of his family members, and he was ready to talk. Whistleblowers, and they're more and more beans are being spilt, and they can't control it anymore. So now they're scrambling. What do we do? How do we control the narrative? What do we do with it? How do we keep a lid on this? Same with MUFON. I mean, people, and I mean people as in there's been interested parties like Bob Bigelow interested in the cases that MUFON receives because they want to know what people are reporting. Because if it's our own secret crap, they want to know what people are seeing and how they're describing it, right? That's important data.
So, in your estimation, with Eisenhower potentially making a deal and during his presidency in the 50s, when you look at where we are today with millions upon millions of dollars being thrown at this subject, why do you think that there is a level of importance now to try and
Mm.
bring this out? This is the $1 million question for me, because prior to the New York Times article coming out in 2017, there really wasn't a reason for this subject to become popular. And yet here we are.
Right. And I've heard different theories on this when I was talking, what was his name? Ray at Contact in the Desert. I didn't know who I was talking to. Is it Ray Hernandez? That sounds right. Anyway, so they don't know. You know who you're talking to, and I'm like, I had no idea. Anyway, they're saying we're on this 4-year timeline. Have you heard this, Dave? There's a 4-year timeline that something really big is going to happen within this 4 years. I don't know if it's like aliens coming down on the White House lawn, like people speculate, but something like that. And so maybe we're against the clock for some reason. And I asked the question, I'm like, well, because I'm like, should I get water and food? Is it like the end of the world kind of thing? Is it a world? I want to know, like, I want to be ready. And there's so many different theories, but I hear this over and over. Like, there's a 4-year timeline. Do you know what that's about? Because I really don't.
Well, I had heard at one point that, I'm going to use the term, a phone call came in.
Okay.
And it was basically saying, this is, secondhand hearsay information. Okay. And that information was, we're coming, we're on our way. This is when we'll
I've
be
heard that.
here.
Yeah,
And you better start prepping.
I heard that too. That very same thing.
Okay. So whether that's 2027 or 2035, I don't know. I really don't know. But there always has to be a reason for that. There was no reason for this topic to ever become as mainstream as it is
Mhm.
right now.
Right.
And I think, like, I remember, and I've said this to my audience before, when I interviewed Lou Elizondo and a couple of times ago, and I asked him about was COVID a test
Test.
to watch how the public would react. Never mind the disease or whether you're a vaxxer or anti-vaxxer. It means nothing. What it means is, how are people treating each other, and how are people reacting
Do you
to
think we
this?
passed? Did we pass the test?
I think we failed.
I would
I think
agree.
I completely think humanity failed on that, because there are very few subjects that is going to affect every single person on this planet. Nuclear holocaust would affect every person on this planet. Okay. COVID did not. Okay. It hit the majority of major countries, but it didn't hit every country. When we look at the way people were treating each other with toilet paper and meat and milk and medicines, we still haven't caught up from that,
I
right?
agree. I
I mean,
agree.
I mean, ratting out each other's neighbor because they have an extra person over for Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
That's not good humanity.
No.
Okay. So there was a lot of things that I believe that COVID was a test towards extraterrestrial contact, and we failed miserably as a species.
Yeah, I
Totally.
agree. And I've heard it very specific, like the person I was speaking to, and the name escapes me, but he said 4 years, and so it was like the end of 2026, but now they're saying early, and we're talking, January, February, March 27, something major. And I kind of gathered that they're talking about they're going to be here, and that will change the world, you know. And now, if you ask me, are they friendly or not, I have no idea. I'm not one of those investigators who puts them all in one camp or the other. I believe we're not a species like that, nor is any other out there in the galaxy. So, yes, I believe there's probably we're teeming with life out there. Are do some have our best interest at heart? Hopefully. I mean, they have shut down our nukes, and they can. I just heard a case on Saturday of a pilot, and don't ask me the specifics, but I do know they can mess with the instrumentation of aircraft and weapons and all this. And if they wanted to have this particular pilot crash, he had an unknown object here, a UFO, on either side of the wing, and right below him. All his instrumentation failed. This was not in the United States. I want to say it was in Peru. And he had no control for several minutes, and then he gained control back. Actually had to take a screwdriver and manually get lower his landing gear. So they had emergency crews at the runway, hoping his landing gear would hold, and the man survived. So if they wanted to hurt that person, they could have, and they did not. So I'm hoping there's ETs that have our best interest at heart, but we don't know that for certain, and I don't think anybody does. And if they tell you they do, they don't know.
Well, you know what? It's been an interesting ride so far, and I see
Yeah, yeah.
the political ugliness continuing, unfortunately, for the
Mhm.
next little bit here. Where do you stand on that?
I don't even follow it. I don't pay attention to it. I hope that our whistleblowers are intimidated and they keep trying to come forward. What interests me is what they have to say. Like was it Graves that talked about the cube inside the sphere? And he said it's like a translucent kind of sphere. So my first question was, well, if it's translucent, how do you know there's a sphere there? But there's kind of a haze where you could see the sphere around this cube. And interestingly enough, through the MUFON cases, and actually I think we have 31 cases active open in the state of Colorado right now. So our cases are increasing. We're getting more and more cases. More and more people are looking at the skies because of the news. It's people are paying attention. So of course we're going to get more reports sent in, but we are getting videos and photographs, and we have for a couple of years now these interesting cube type square UFOs, UAPs. So what term do you prefer, Dave? UFOs or UAPs?
I'm a UFO guy,
Yeah.
and I was really I did it for nostalgia because UAP just doesn't roll off the tongue very well, and
Right.
I'm not a big fan of government terms, but I was really convinced of it in February. That's where I really noticed that when they were calling the Chinese drones UAPs, but when they were
Oh,
referring to UFOs as UFOs,
I noticed that too.
okay, that's where I learned point blank UAPs are not from out of this world. UFOs are, and UAPs are man made.
That's a great distinguishing factor, and I'm going to steal that from you. That's how I'm going to refer to them from now on. I think you started something there, Dave.
Yeah, it hasn't caught on very, but
Let's make it catch on, because that's brilliant. I like that a lot,
yeah.
because
So
I do believe the majority of what we see, probably 85% of what we see are UAPs. They're not
I
UFOs. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And if you ever heard our insider random guy, he would tell you the exact same thing, that probably 90%
Yeah,
of what we are seeing in the sky is UAP.
I agree.
And whether that's coming from China, whether that's coming from Area 51, whether that's coming from some other secret base,
Colorado Springs.
wherever it may be.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it's very likely that there are those technologies out there that are from us. I mean,
agreed.
we have no clue. I mean, this is the example I like to give people. Okay. Everybody in the media is talking about the big bad Russians and the big bad Chinese just came out with this 5th generation stealth fighter. Ooh, we got to be careful. We got to be on guard for this. The Americans had stealth technology flying in the 70s. Okay. The F-117 stealth fighter flew in the 70s.
Did you know what? Yeah, I know.
Okay. And it became public in 1989.
Yeah.
So even if you go from the time it went public, the F-117 stealth fighter, the Nighthawk, when it became a public aircraft in 1989, when legendary photographer Jim Goodall got the first picture, and yes, that's the same Jim Goodall who's been on this show a bunch of times. Okay. He's the first civilian to capture a photo of it. And that's 34 years ago. What have we learned, or what do we have in that next 34 plus years?
Oh, right.
If the Russians and Chinese are just coming out with stealth technology the last 8 years,
I know
far are the Americans?
Yeah, one of my big questions I had on the ranch, because there's a great document and a report done on, it's called The Choppers and the Choppers. So during the rash in the height of these mutilations, we had these unmarked helicopters seen frequently all through the Midwest. And they were flying on and off properties, seen in areas of mutilations. It was a big mystery, almost like the drones that were seen out here in northern Colorado, never solved. And there was a great document or research project called The Choppers and the Choppers. But one of my questions was, because when I went out and interviewed the undersheriff's widow and son out in Florida, they were talking about these balls of light coming on and off their property out there. And I'm like, did we have kind of silent helicopters? And I know no helicopter can be completely silent that I'm aware of, but they certainly are very quiet, much more quiet than you would assume or imagine. And this was in the late 70s, that we have helicopters that aren't as loud as people would suspect they are. I'll just put it that way.
Just remember, as we got about a minute to go, the helicopters that were flown in the killing of Osama bin Laden were silent.
That's right.
And those helicopters no longer exist.
Yeah.
Remember,
I'm reading some of the comments here. So I might look distracted. I like learning from your listeners as well.
Well, you know what? So the idea that there are probably a lot of things flying out of places like Area 51 that you and I and the average ordinary person would consider a UFO. Let's look at the source.
Yeah.
Let's look at Ben Rich, when in 1992 he said, we've already got the technology to take ET home again. That's
right. And I've done some interviews with some people, whistleblowers that I can't divulge their name, and I hate to do that, but they say the same thing. So, I believe that is a fact. So I do believe a lot of what comes in through MUFON. Now, that being said, there is so much high strangeness and so many encounters with people that
we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we return. And we're going to get to some of your favorite cases on Spaced Out Radio. Katie Paige is here from MUFON, Colorado, talking UFOs for the next hour. and maybe we'll get in some of your questions too on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Look at Noble Patrick. Love a lady who has a fireplace in August going.
Hold on. There we go. It's been cool up here. Like, I literally, last night we had the heat on, and 2 nights ago we had the heat on. It was like 55 degrees when I went to bed up here in Woodland Park. This doesn't push out any heat, though. So it's just for ambiance. I mean, you could put this on in the summertime, 100 degrees, and you have the ambiance to sit back and read a book. So it's nice.
Well, you know what? It's a beautiful look. It's a beautiful look.
It's cozy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love your library. Love your library. One day, if I ever finish my book will be in that library.
Oh, please. Yes, that would be great. Place of honor right here.
Yeah. Right. Right.
There.
I'm going to step away for a minute. Do you want to chat with the audience? Because I know you're reading the chat.
Sure.
Okay. I'll be right back. You guys can all talk to Katie.
Yeah, give me something to talk about. Ask me some questions in there because it's kind of scrolling through. And I don't know. Can I go back down? Oh, I was trying to read. Let me find it here. So many things. You guys are so talkative. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, but if anybody has any questions, hey. Questions in caps. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I love answering questions. So, have we ever had a UFO experience? Oh yeah. So for those of you who don't know, and probably Dave and I will kind of touch base about it, but when I was a young girl, if you've heard of the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, there was a ranch that predated the Skinwalker Ranch. It was known as the Clearview Ranch. It was reported by APRO. I never knew it was reported at the time. We were told and threatened and warned never to talk about what happened out there. So my family and we didn't live on the ranch full time, but my mom was dating the gentleman that owned the ranch property. So we experienced everything. It started with strange humming noises and bangs underground, Sasquatch sightings, even big cryptid birds, UFOs, orbs. This is where Linda Moulton Howe got her start with all the cattle mutilations, cow, sheep, horse, dog. Colorado Bureau of Investigations was involved. NORAD was out there. It's just been an ongoing, long journey of uncovering what was happening out there. We had 2 A-70 interceptors crash in pursuit of a UFO. So I've interviewed multiple witnesses. I have an Excel spreadsheet now of over 250 some names on that sheet, pulled from all sorts of newspaper articles from back in the day. And to my surprise, when I went out there and filmed with Beyond Skinwalker, so for a 43-minute episode, you film for a week. So we filmed for a full week out there. They break it down. And I was a little worried because that had been the first time I was back to the ranch since I was a young girl. And I learned that the phenomenon is still pretty active out there to this day, which was a surprise to me. So yeah, I've experienced quite a bit. You name it. I don't consider myself an abductee, but I've had some pretty lucid dreams. Dr. Sprinkle actually put me under and hypnotized me for an hour and a half, and some unusual things came out under hypnosis, which I don't really know what to make of. I'm on the fence about that because I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I trust my memory so much. So, but oh yeah, I was out. Let's see. I was out at the Ozarks. Yeah, that was fun. I love the Ozarks. If you haven't been out to the Ozark event, that is one of my favorites. And I love Pine Bush in New York. And of course, McMinnville in Oregon is always a blast too. McMinnville is always fun. I love a conference where you can, they have all the street vendors and all that stuff. I just think those are a lot of fun. But yeah, I plan on speaking, and I'm doing more and more investigations out there on the property as I'm meeting more people and more witnesses. So I hope to continue to share what I'm learning, because I think there's two sides to the phenomenon, which Dave and I will talk about for sure. I think, my question always was like, how much of this is actual unexplained paranormal phenomena and how much of it is black access military projects? I found documents in Dr. Sprinkle's archives that talks about like MK Ultra activity happening out there. They talked about a Warren, and his last name was blacked out, and it said he was on the ranch property from Camp Carson military base. Something took over his mind, made him walk towards the wood line, would release him, and he'd run back to the house. And this did this to him 5 times, which speaks to me of mind control. Now, was that ET having the mind control, or was it the military experimenting with mind control? Oh, my necklace. So I got this at Contact in the Desert. It's it's a rock from Peru, an ancient stone. And I normally don't splurge and spoil myself, but I did with this. I was really drawn to this. And I didn't realize it at the time, but there's a spiral carved on the back of this stone. And I have an affinity to spirals. So that was pretty cool.
All right, Katie.
But thank you.
We got 20 seconds left. I want to say a big thank you to Smithy, W. Decker ×2, Louis ×2, Noble Patrick, Paramarv, Free Your Mind, Derek, and AA Ron for the super chats, and Deb as well. And we have our new Patreon Space Travelers Club going. I'm going to post the link in the chat room. And here we go, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here is hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, your host with the most tinfoil in his office. Yes, we are talking UFOs tonight. We say thank you to all our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally, Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL for tuning us on in. And, of course, all of our archives are free. They'll always be free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Radiogenis. Radiogenic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio, Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show, and, of course, we're now on Patreon with the Space Travelers Club. All right, Katie Paige is here. She is with MUFON, Colorado, one of their top investigators with everything to do with UFOs, ET contact, and we welcome you back, Katie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I should get to Patrick's question right now. How did I feel when the ranch responded to you? Yeah, you shouldn't leave me alone during the break. I was just... Sorry, but get me going on the ranch stuff and I can't stop talking. So since that was the first, one thing I have to say about the film crew and filming with Beyond Skinwalker, they are like, I could not even meet the people who lived at the ranch. I couldn't meet, they brought in David Morehouse. And this was a part of the episode that didn't get aired. So you guys are getting kind of a behind the scenes here, but they did the biggest remote view in the history of the country on that episode, on that property with David Morehouse. And it didn't make the episode. And I was floored. I'm like, I can't believe it. But they just, you spend a week and you had all this incredible activity happen, and they have to get it down to like 43 minutes. And the first 10 minutes is setup, and the last 10 minutes is review for the Skinwalker Ranch. So you're really left with this small amount of time to get everything in. So I'm really hoping that, if they get next season, that they go there. But but you can actually find that clip. It's on, if you go to YouTube and you type in Beyond Skinwalker Ranch expert pinpoints alien activity hotspots. You can find the clip of that remote view from the ranch. And I'm really glad that they at least have that small clip, because so much happened and the remote viewers were incredible. I mean, it blew my mind. But the question your Patrick asked me, how did I feel? That, what people don't really realize, that was the first time back to the ranch since I was a little girl. And when we first drove up to the gate of the property, it was getting dark. So it was dusk. And I was panicked that it would be dark when we went into the gate, because I wanted to see what I can remember from my childhood. And what happened was I was a little uneasy, but I really got into this like fighting mode as things started to happen and the activity started up and the house responded to me and the hum started back up and all this other stuff happened. I kind of got into this fighting mode, like, hey, I'm not a little girl anymore. You can't follow me home and having the shadow figures next to my bed and things. Like, I felt empowered. So
About Android's question here. He is asking, any plan to bring back live YouTube stream on your YouTube podcast? I loved it. Always miss it because there's no more notifications.
Is he talking about MUFON? What's up?
I would assume
The podcast.
so.
Yeah. We came back last Tuesday night, and tomorrow night we'll be back. We have we have Mike Cleland on, and he talks about UFOs and owls, the connection between these owl sightings. And he's one of the featured speakers at the symposium this year in a couple weeks. So yes, we are back, and we are back live. So every Tuesday night on kgradb.com. I try to post on my Facebook every week too, the link for that. But yeah, we are back, and I missed it too. We had a change of hosts, so I have Shane Hurd on there who joined Tara Diulis. So it's the three of us every Tuesday night live, and it's a fun show. It's a good way to get to know people, as Dave, you well know. So
very much so. Always good people on there. And the amazing Shane Hurd from MUFON, Arizona, who has the beard of knowledge when it comes to UFOs. Oh, that's a beautiful beard. Beautiful, beautiful beard. I'm curious, as an investigator, what are your thoughts of all the news last week coming out of Peru with these aliens that were apparently terrorizing these little jungle villages?
Oh, it's like the Vegas news. It's so hard to know unless I'm down there interviewing and vetting and researching. And so like everybody else, I'm watching with a skeptical eye, but I can tell you this, MUFON we do have the ERT team, which is the experiencer resource team. And it does seem like activity's amping up both in these close encounter contacts, which is something I noticed as I started researching the ranch. So for me, obviously, I have a high interest in the 1970s. I'm a young girl at the time, giving away my age. I'm a little older. But, I love that decade for several different reasons. This was, before we had the internet and cell phones and all that good stuff. But it seemed to me like the late 60s and the 70s, we had a lot more like craft landing cases. I mean, Travis Walton, where you're actually seeing the craft, you're seeing beings like working on the craft, these kind of cases. And then it kind of changed. And now all of a sudden we're getting more of these close encounter sightings and where people are seeing ETs in their backyards and these kind of interactions. So I find it interesting. Are they getting ready, like what we were talking about, ready for this 4-year reveal? I don't know.
Do you think, when I look at that Peru situation, to me, that reminds me a lot of what we saw in the movie Signs.
Yeah, right.
Okay, where
that one scene where they're having the birthday party and they're like, ah!
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the scene that scares me. I'm not scared by that movie. There's two parts to that movie that freak me out. Number one, the in the cornfield. Okay, because I've heard that in my own backyard. I've heard that conversation in my own backyard. Okay. And that one, like to this day, you can't see, but it gives me goosebumps just talking about that. Okay. But the other scene that gets me is that children's birthday party from Brazil or Peru or wherever it is, where all of a sudden the bushes are scrambling and the father's got the video camera out, and the alien walk on by and said that famous, almost like that,
Looks.
the Sasquatch pose, from the Patterson Gimlin film. And that part really, really, just.
And the fingers under the pantry and they get chopped off. Blah!
Tell me about
Such a great movie. Such a great movie.
But I mean, what we're seeing there is, to me, the irony that we're seeing this 20 years plus later playing out, if this scenario is true, if it's real. I mean, when you looked at that video, and I think you saw it with the alien on the rooftop, I mean, that looked like a classic manted head being.
Right. Yep. I mean, we're getting reports all the time in the ERT. I mean, I just wish, why so elusive? Why, if they're taking the chance and they know they're being seen, just come out with it already. That's what gets me. Like, it's still so, and it could be easily hoaxed. So
Why do you think reports are up? Is it that people are paying more
Mhm.
attention, or are the ETs themselves making themselves more known?
I think people are paying more attention, and it's also the time of year. I mean, we're notoriously, we'll get more reports this time of year. More people are outside camping and having barbecues, and they're looking up. But more and more people. I mean, this is a question that we have an active case right now, and the gentleman has put in several cases, and I had to have a conversation with my investigator because they're like, well, I think because he's seeing them so often, he must be hoaxing or misidentifying. But a few of the videos are actually very compelling. In fact, tomorrow night on the show, I always do a case of the week on MUFON What's Up. So I'm going to highlight and show one of his videos, and it's a cube. It looks like a cube. Could be a cube. Could be a bunch of balloons that look like cubes. But you see it, and then it disappears, and then you see it again, and there's no cloud cover. There's no reason for it to just kind of cloak out. So I think more people are paying attention because of the news. It's the time of year. So it's a whole combination of things. And perhaps they are starting to, the ETs that is, are just saying, what the heck, they're on to us now. The clock's ticking. We're going to come out here in 4 years. Let's show ourselves more. I don't know, get people ready. I mean, there's that argument too, right? You've heard that argument for years, like through popular media and television and movies and comic books. We've been sort of like in the movie Paul, right? You've been seeing my face, getting you guys ready to see us and not be so like freaked out. So maybe there's some of that going on too.
My son was so excited when I FaceTimed him from Nevada at the Spaced Out Radio party. And I'm like, hey, buddy, guess where I am? And he goes, where? And I said, remember because one of his favorite movies is Paul. I said,
Yeah.
do you recognize this place from the movie Paul? And I zoomed out and I was standing right beside the tow truck at the little alien with the tow truck has UFO on it. He's like, right. Daddy, you're right there. That's from Paul. That's from Paul.
That's awesome.
I'm like, should I get you from here? And he's like, yes, please.
So many great souvenirs there. Somebody in the chat asked who those people are. I don't think there's a committee going, okay, we need to come out with the film. But we have been being fed images, right? And that's where that actually takes me back to. So I don't think they're like a controlled, okay, we need the movie Contact and we'll start with Close Encounters of the Third Kind or whatever, an ET. But I do think there is something to that that philosophy that we are kind of being prepared for economic. But what that makes me think of is, are we manifesting the phenomenon? This is kind of my thought lately. So we see all these images and movies and films and that, and then we have an experience, and then there's always, you hear abductees and contactees, and even Mike Clellan will talk about the and John and Stan, the ex-Navajo Rangers, talk about that they do have the ability to kind of put an image that we're not so afraid of, like in the movie Contact, where she sees her father, kind of thing, right? So maybe these images we're being fed is what our minds are tricking us to believe that ETs look like, which are, still different, but not terrifying all the time. There have been some scary ones, but typically not. Maybe they're horrific and would terrify the bejesus out of us. I don't know. Just thought. Just a
I
thought.
don't know.
I don't know. Just a thought.
I don't know either. I mean, that's part of the entire mystery of this UFO game that is being played. Do you see a time, before we get into some of your top stories that you're going to share with us in a little bit here? Do you see a time in the near future where they step away from the military side of the eyewitnesses and finally get to people such as you, such as MUFON cases, such as Chris Bledsoe or Calvin Parker or Travis Walton or many other people who are not known regarding the subject of contact?
I certainly hope so. And even just in the investigations of nuts and bolts UFO craft, I mean, yes, obviously it helps. I have my bachelor's of science in visual communications, but I just think this whole theory that because you're a police officer or you're a pilot, yes, pilots are trained observers. They're in the sky more often than we are, but that doesn't make the rest of us bad observers. It doesn't make the rest of us less credible. And sometimes I get frustrated when people are only looking at pilot cases. Yes, I love the pilot cases. I love the police officer cases, and very credible the witnesses. It's always better to be a credible witness. But when you're out camping and you have one or two beers and whatever, doesn't negate the fact that you might have a really crazy experience in close encounter. So that's something we always have to be careful with, especially MUFON investigators have to, always be respectful and listening to every person's report and experience and take it seriously.
Looking at being a MUFON investigator, and I want to throw this out there because I think it's going to become highly important, especially over the next few years. What is evidence now? And I ask that because with this rapid track advancement of AI technology, some of
Yeah,
this stuff is looking incredibly real,
right.
incredibly real. And I wouldn't know for the life of me to be able to tell what is real and what is not for right now, moving forward as the technology advances. So for you as an investigator of this phenomena, are you going to have to rely more on anecdotal stories to give you boots on the ground leads? Because video and photographs are not going to be trusted much anymore.
Right. No, this is a conversation that we have often, with members and our field investigators is what is evidence? What is anecdotal evidence? What do we consider? So when I go in to pull my cases of the week, obviously I love a case that has a good photograph or a good video. But like you said, fakes are so good right now. It's so important that our like Mark D'Antonio and others, that they have good training in looking at photo forensics and video forensics, and that's even getting more and more technical and advanced. So my assistant state director, Seth Feinstein, has just gone through some rigorous training through the police departments and others, and learning very expensive software that the police department has. I don't remember the name of it, but I mean, he's really having to train hard to do what he can to start, looking at these fakes and hoaxers. But at the same time, just when, for example, there was just a case I looked at the other day of a really great triangle case. Now, of course, some of these triangles could be our own. Some could be extraterrestrial. I love David Marler's research on the triangles. That's a great book. If you want a good UFO book to read, I recommend David Marler's book on triangles. It's excellent. But his witness was his testimony. He has an incredible background in the military, and he drew what he saw on a piece of paper. I think that's just as incredible as somebody to take credible as somebody taking a photograph or video. So you look at many different factors: the credibility of the witness, how he is as an observer, his background. For me, something I always look at too, and if you see something truly unexplained, you typically will go through your, well, is it a bird? Is it a bug? Is it a drone? Is it a da 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 da? So when I interview a witness, you can kind of tell right off if they're just trying to sell you a story, this incredible kind of, there's kind of tells you can to go through. And Mary and Rob, and they do a great job at interviewing techniques and things like that. So there's different things that we train on and look for when we take a case.
So is this going to I kind of asked this earlier on, and I don't think you really got to it, but I'll re-ask this question. Is this going to put more pressure on investigators such as yourself to really look harder into anecdotal stories
Yes.
that people have had? So basically, we're getting back to original ufology prior to the
Yes.
internet age.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why we have categories like information only or insufficient data. So when you put in your report, we have different ways we can close cases. Identified, IFO is what we call them, identified flying objects. And then we put a slash, and it could be either a man-made object like an airplane or a drone, satellite, Starlink, or we have IFO natural, which is a bug or a bird or a planet. And then we have hoaxes. We have two different types of hoaxes. We have a hoax keystroke, where somebody sits on a computer and types up a fictitious story, gives us false information. Then we have a hoaxed event, where somebody, and I actually did this one time. I'm guilty as charged. I bought a light up Frisbee and I was flipping it and taking pictures of it. And I was giving it to see if it would pass off as an unknown object, a UFO. And we do that sometimes in our training center. We'll take pictures of like Chinese lanterns and little like party balloons, and we'll take pictures of them as they're turning in the atmosphere, because they often look like UFOs, and it's good to know what that looks like. I'll do that on airplanes when I'm sitting in a window seat and I see other airplanes go by. I'll take pictures out my window of the other airplane, because guess what they look like? Tic Tacs. You don't see the wings, you don't see the tail, you don't, so I try to fool myself and my other investigators. I'm kind of guilty as charged, but so many things you can misidentify as a UFO, and it's good to know what those things look like and have things to compare them to. So
It is, but does this mean, as we got about just under 2 minutes to go, does this mean there's going to be more of a reliance of trying to get boots on the ground, like old fashioned detective
yes.
work?
Oh yeah. And I'm not negating. I'm not a complete skeptic or debunker here. I don't want your listeners to get me wrong. People are having real sightings, real encounters, and I believe that we interact with the phenomenon. And those kind of encounters those are legit, real. And oftentimes, guess what? So many very, very credible sightings of both UFOs and entities do not come with photos and videos, because once that happens to you, the last thing you're thinking about is grabbing your silly phone and taking a picture, because you are just, you're awestruck. So you forget to grab your phone.
Very true. I am
Yeah,
famous
yeah.
for that.
Yep, me too.
Famous for that.
Yeah.
But it is good to see that, with AI, you are going to have to, even though we're using the technology, we're going to have to put some of that technology away and
Yeah.
do actual real work again. I think that's exciting. I
Yeah.
think I think it's going to put an end to a lot of armchair researchers who do all their work on the internet, and force them to come to different conclusions, because now they got to get out on the road, especially if that sightings within maybe 100 miles of their home.
Absolutely. And nothing compares to a good face-to-face interview. Not even Zoom, not StreamYard, nothing. You need to go to somebody's location or meet them at a restaurant and do a face-to-face interview, and do it the old-fashioned way. It's so important.
When we return for the next half hour on Spaced Out Radio tonight, with MUFON Colorado's Katie Paige. I know she has a couple of really cool cases that she can talk about. She's investigated. Let's see if she can scare the daylights out of us with some aliens coming up on Spaced Out Radio. Maybe not, but nonetheless, we got to try. Second half of this show comes up right after this. Yay!
Yay!
Hi, Ozzy Ange. How are you?
They jump into my pictures. Don't notice until that happens often, Kara.
Yes.
And those things in photographs all the time.
Seen any good aliens lately?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever seen an alien. Have you, Dave? Have you seen a good alien lately?
No.
Liar.
I never saw the alien.
You saw the craft, though. I have seen unidentified lights.
Yeah.
Come on. You're
You know,
holding back. He's holding back on us. Let's pressure him.
I have to right now. I have to. We'll see if it pans out. I gotta be careful with what I say here. If it pans out, there's going to be a very big holy crap movement.
That would be cool if it comes from you, Dave. I would really like that. It would make sense.
Yeah. So D Cypher is asking, what did you see with Samantha, Dave? Not gonna tell.
Wait. Let me go back. There was a question up here. Katie, if you had to bet who that was threatening you to be quiet on the farm, who would you guess? Non-human or human? That's an excellent question. So when you left, I was, telling how I was threatened and warned by this disembodied electrical voice. And what's fascinating about that, I go back and forth on that because sometimes I think it could be all the military. However, it doesn't make sense because that property sat vacant for over 10 years. If they wanted access to it, they could have purchased it. Number two, I've done a couple podcasts now. I just did one recently out of the UK with a really great investigator out there who's written several books. He too has heard this disembodied electrical voice. So I've had other people report the same thing, which makes me think, and this is outside of the United States, it's something else. And then the ET beings that were reported, those 2B guys, those electrical, like AI type of beings that were seen there, plus there were Nordic seen there, and those disappearing boxes, which those box cases are coming forward too. They're more common than I thought. I did not realize that. So it's super cool to see I'm not the only person. Skinwalker Ranch had them too. And so perhaps those are all interconnected, that disembodied electrical voice that threatened us, plus the boxes, plus these AI type of beings. I think they might all be connected. And the mutilations where you have this Oz effect. You know what that Oz effect is? Where everything goes completely silent. You don't hear the birds, you don't hear the bugs, you don't hear anything. Have you experienced that, Dave? The Oz effect?
Every weekend.
Really?
Every
weekend. Does something happen every time?
No, but they're there.
Right. It's
usually,
feeling of being watched.
It's usually in the forest when we are searching for Sasquatch. We know we have been there at times when there's been other stuff there that we haven't seen, but you can feel it.
Yep.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of recognizing everything's energy pattern, because you can tell the difference between the ghost, the cryptid, the UFO, and the alien.
And we all have that ability. We all have an innate ability to know the senses, right? Like,
That's
you know
right.
when you're being watched, or you know when a threat is coming upon you.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's or sometimes you get vibration under your feet coming
Yeah.
through the ground,
Or the chill, the goosebumps, or the hair, all that.
or the ground, or the ground is just vibrating underneath your feet,
Right.
and you can't figure out why, because it ain't you. It's something else.
Something
1
else.
second here, Katie. Big thank you to Smithy, W. Decker times 2, Debster, AA Ron, Derek, Free Your Mind, Paramarv, Louis with a hat trick, Noble Patrick, Android, and T-Bone for the great super chats. We have also opened up the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. You can check it out right now. I highly suggest you join this. We're going to be adding more in the future. And here we go with the next half hour. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. So good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and we got our great Space Travelers Club now open on Patreon. For the final time tonight, we say hello to Katie Paige, who is from MUFON, Colorado, and we're going to get into some of her favorite cases that she has covered over the years. And Katie, thank you so much for being with us. You are amazing as per usual, and thank you for spending time with our audience.
Well, thanks for having me. It's sort of refreshing and fun to only talk about the ranch stuff during the breaks. Talk about other things. So I love that. Yeah, one thing I'd like to say about cases, and it's not true that the best cases are only at night. Some of my favorite cases have been daytime sightings. And matter of fact, when I ran my numbers of all my unknown cases that I've had through the years, half of them are daytime sightings. So I love those daytime sighting cases. So keep your eyes to the sky even in the day. And lately we're getting a case just came in recently. Of course, I have to keep names in that confidential, but y'all know they're all from the state of Colorado. Couple videos came in that was really cool. I kind of mentioned that cube video that was, you can clearly see it, and that kind of stops and then it just disappears completely and boom, reappears. That was pretty compelling. That's an active case right now. There's another video. It's a daytime sighting case, and the gentleman's in a Walmart parking lot of all places, so it's a pretty crowded area, and you see just a ball of light, and then you see a second ball of light, right? And yes, they could be weather balloons, they could be party balloons, but the movement of the balloons is really strange. They're not birds, I can tell you that, because I've seen sometimes birds will get a glow on their wings. So you go through the whole process of elimination. But while these two orby, really bright lights are going, a jet comes in. So I love those cases where a jet comes in. One of my favorite daytime sighting cases, it was several years back, kind of close to Douglas, Elbert County, over by what used to be Buckley Air Force Base, is now Space Force. There was a woman, she's driving to work, and sun's out, daytime. She sees what she says is an object, and it's pretty low. It's just above the treetop. It's changing shape, and she's going in her mind, am I looking at a pelican? What am I looking at? She's so compelled, she pulls the car over and just watches this thing for like a good solid minute, she says. She's watching this thing shape shift. She's not sure what to make of it. As she's watching it, two jets come in lower. That she lives out there, so she sees jets all the time. but these are flying lower than she's ever seen. And they come right at this object over the treetop. The thing just disappears in front of her eyes. One jet flies to the east, one flies to the west, and boom. So that was a super cool case. And I love those daytime sighting cases. And I love the daytime video cases too. They're easier to analyze than little lights in the sky at night.
Have you ever studied any cases where you have had multiple phenomena at once?
Well, yeah, the high strangeness cases, of course, are my favorite. And we do get several cases within MUFON where you'll have a field investigator looking at the actual, UAP, UFO footage or videos or photographs or testimony. And then you will also have an ERT or an experiencer resource team working with the other, like what we call hitchhiker phenomenon that might be occurring with the witness, whether they believe it's an abduction, paranormal activity happening in their houses, lucid dream, shadow beings, you name it. This, I feel, all connected with those high strangeness cases. And the thing that really gets me and is a question for me, and again goes back to my theories that we as individuals interact with the phenomenon and even perhaps somewhat create the phenomenon to a degree, is how you can have a group of people and they can all witness an event. Sometimes everybody will see it, sometimes everybody won't. But then you'll have one or two people, often one person in the group, sometimes two, that it seems to attach to them or affect them more so than anybody else in the group. And they'll have continued sightings or continued experiences at their home. And I want to know what that's about. Why does that happen?
That I don't know.
I don't know either, but it happens all the time.
Okay.
So,
With that explanation, then, can you give us an example of a case you were on where maybe there was a UFO combined with a cryptid sighting or a ghostly adventure?
yeah, well, there's a couple. There's one, and this one always interests me too because it's in a very populated town of Centennial. It's in the daytime. It's there a father and a son, very credible. Like these witnesses are very credible. They're driving to DIA, Denver International Airport on E470, lots of traffic, right? And what they claim, is a huge, like pterodactyl type of bird, like a cryptid bird flying right over the highway. I'm like, okay, yes, they didn't get here. That's a good example of somebody who doesn't grab, because he's driving, son's in the seat. They don't grab their phone or anything. This was boom and it's gone. So that was kind of compelling. But there's also, do you remember the how many years ago? It was pre-COVID. We had the solar eclipse.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was a group of campers that went to camp to observe the solar eclipse, and they had the big ball, the orange orbs. That's a pretty common color for these larger orbs. We get smaller white orbs, smaller blue orbs, sometimes green, but the larger orbs tend to be orange in color, orangish red. And they also had a Sasquatch, like messing with the tent, throwing rocks, those kind of activities. So that was a combination of an orb sighting and a cryptid sighting.
Okay. How about cases where aliens were involved in scene?
ERT gets those. And they're specially trained to deal with, contact abductee experiencers, because that's a whole other ball of wax. And that often, just like with Dr. Leo's research, he did extensive, over 40 years of study with, abductees. And they tend to have a lot of commonalities in how these occurs. Oftentimes, visitations start very young. They tend to run in families. They continue on through different periods of your life as if they're monitoring, right? If they're doing a hybrid program, let's say, you would kind of check in on your subjects from time to time, and that's what it appears to do. And then oftentimes later in life, let's say in your mid 40s to your 50s, sometimes early 40s, you start feeling like you have a mission or a task, like you're put on this planet for a specific reason. Sometimes people think it's environmental, sometimes it's scientific, Sometimes it's just communication and sharing and networking and writing books and researching. Different people feel so driven, and they feel it's coming from their contact experience that they're put on this mission or task, and it just really never lets them go. So it's interesting. You see a lot of commonalities.
Have you yourself ever been on any cases that involve ET contact?
Well, certainly people have reported them, and I've went and interviewed, and that yeah, absolutely, yeah, many.
What is the reaction from people as you're interviewing them? What is their
Um,
reaction to what they went through?
Well, first of all, I think first and foremost, their reaction is of great relief, because it's important that they feel they have somebody they can trust, they can talk to, and be heard. So no matter what your opinion, it's so important to always just listen with an open ear. Um, so that's number one, to give them resources. Where it becomes frustrating as an investigator is oftentimes people want answers like, who are they? What do they want? Where do they come from? When will it stop? How can I protect myself? And oftentimes I don't have answers for them. And that can be frustrating for me, and it can be frustrating for them. And the best that I can do is give them resources and other people to talk to. So
What would you like to see in your investigation? You get that phone call and you're like, this is going on. What does Katie Paige want to see
you mean from my witnesses?
from your witnesses or experience in the field yourself?
Well, for the state of Colorado, Seth just put together a good science team that are kind of doing like radar type of things. So I think that's kind of cool to see more, measurements being done, getting out there, really trying to look scientifically at what we're doing, taking soil samples, whatever we can do for evidence. And that's hard to do, by the way. It's very, very hard to do. But I also am trying to put together just a Colorado historical team to really know the history. And I think every state should do this. Every state should take a really good historical look at their area, their sightings, their history of ufology and UFOs and UAPs and cryptids and all of it. Like, I just want a big history book for every state, to make connections. For my witnesses, I love a witness that has detailed. So, and I try to tell people this all the time, whether it's ghosts, whether it's lucid dreams, whatever you're experiencing, Sasquatch, clicks in the forest, like, if you can remember, even if you have your phone, you have your notes, grab your phone, open notes, and say, at 11:47 p.m. on August the 14th, 2023, this occurred, and then this occurred, and then this occurred, and then try to remember to follow up the next couple days and say, this is the day after nothing happened, or the day after this light flickered, or take notes, because our memories fail us time and time again. And I've had that happen to me, where I was thankful that I wrote something down, because I was like, oh yeah, and then that happened too. And then that way you can start making the connections, So I love a witness that has like, oh, here.
Are there any patterns that you have found throughout investigating cases?
Any patterns? Well, there's
Yeah.
certainly a lot of commonalities for sure. Just like I was talking about with abductions and experiencers, there's of course, oh my gosh, Cheryl Costa is really good at the data, right? Looking at the area codes and looking at time of year, and those kind of patterns are interesting. I know James Keenan talks about, because it's interesting if you're looking at the high strangeness activity, it tends to ebb and flow and get really intense and then kind of go down. And he theorized that could have something to do with our Earth's magnetism levels and our solar flares, the Schumann resonance, which I know I follow a couple people who keep an eye on what the Earth is doing with the Schumann resonance, and that it can get really, really high, those kind of things. So I do think that there's patterns in that. And I do think there's answers to be found in that. And in fact, in many of these high strangeness locations, you do see really, really off the charts high magnetism. And Dr. Simeon Hine even talks about even the man-made crop circles, because he's done a lot of research in these crop circles around the world and mostly the UK. But even the man-made ones, the magnetism in those are really high. Now, what is that about? I think there's answers in some of that science. So
You mentioned off the top about cattle mutilations, and I think this is a topic that we really don't spend enough time on. What do you think is happening in this scenario? Do you think that aliens just like a nice cut of beef? Do you think that they, maybe are using these dissection methods as scientific experimentation? I mean, we just can't seem to figure these out.
Right. And I always preface this with I am not the cattle mutilation expert like Linda House started it. She's such a pioneer, and Christopher O'Brien and Chuck Zukowski and others. However, from the little bit I have researched and interviewed people who, ranchers, investigating the ranch of Elbert County, I have come to some of my own theories. I do think it's a mixed bag. I do think we have been testing some of the cattle, but I do think the majority of them are mysterious. There's no evidence. There's no track marks. One of my favorite cases, and I've talked about it on several podcasts, but is the one where, the husband was out on horseback, comes across a dead calf. It has 4 cuts. The hair's removed. The skin's still there. He gets on his horse, goes back and gets my witness. They come back in the pickup truck 25 minutes later. The cattle or the calf had been completely mutilated, cauterized, organs removed, blood drained. They're miles off the county road in Rama, Colorado, in the middle of nowhere. No helicopter noises, no footprints, nothing but what the horse left. They have the photograph. She sent me the photograph on Facebook. They felt watched. They felt eerie. I think that I've heard, we had a presenter talk about Area S4 and how the EB1 that they had captured down in S4, he or she or it, however you want to put it, they absorb their food and nutrients through their skin. So they'd actually take these animals, elk, cow, horse, deer, we hear sheep. I've even seen articles on dog mutilations, and something nobody likes to talk about, which Chris O'Brien and I talked about recently on a podcast, are human mutilations. And perhaps they are, it sounds eerie and gross, but grinding this stuff up and rubbing it on their skin.
It is just so disgusting to think about.
I mean, did that scare you? You wanted me to scare the listeners.
Well, I mean, it's an ugly topic. It really is an ugly topic. But I mean, the funny part about that whole thing was I remember the late Butch Witkowski, saying that there are 1.3 million Americans on average that go missing every year.
It's mind-blowing.
And when the FBI breaks it down from, people from kidnappings to murders to all sorts of different crimes to people taking their own lives and everything, they whittle it down to around 60,000 people who they cannot account for. And if you look at the numbers that allegedly happened with President Eisenhower making his trade, humans for technology, if that did happen, the aliens were allowed to take 60,000 people a year.
Right. And that ends in 4 years. David Pilati's work is, his movie, The UFO Connection, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's super good. And they go into northern Colorado, which, by the way, that Higgins case with the box and the pill and the bullet that stops and that is a fascinating case, but he brings up aquifers. So I was like, oh, interesting, with the magnetism, certain granite and crystals in the rock, plus the water underground. I was curious if we had aquifers under the ranch, and we do. In fact, right where that ranch property sits, two aquifers come together, the Dawson and the, what's the other one? Dawson and the Denver, I think it's the Denver. And one's deeper water source and one's more to the surface, but they both meet right there. So I thought that was fascinating too. That you put all these magical ingredients together, and does it open up some sort of gateway? I hate, gateway portal kind of phenomenon, or does it allow us to interact just like within the ghost world when we're around, just like the Stanley Hotel, you have granite and running water and all that. It seems to amp up the activity, and I think that that's something that could really be looked at scientifically.
Have we figured out what causes activity in certain areas? Like, we don't see the cattle mutilations in every town. We see them to hover in certain locations. Okay,
Right.
like in Canada here, there isn't a lot of reports, if any, of cattle mutilations in my province of British Columbia. Yet you go next door to Alberta or Saskatchewan, 2 provinces over, we hear about them.
Right.
In the States, it's the same way.
Yeah, I would look at military installations. I would look at magnetism. I would look at water sources. I would look at all of these things. I think they all play a role. I know the Midwest, for example, you run up through Wyoming and Francis Waring up into Malmstrom in Montana, all down the Midwest of the country, and you do have military installations in that. So, and into New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. Why there more than anywhere else? Does that speak to military? I'm not so sure. I don't have the answers for sure, but that's all data that has to be looked at.
Very true. With 3 minutes to go,
man, that went fast.
What is something that you want all people to know about this subject? What's important, whether it's reporting, whether it's the news, whether it's the political side of everything? What is something that you would tell our audience that they should pay attention to?
Listen to your instinct, listen to your gut, follow your intuition, know your own truth, follow what you're interested in, write down the experiences you're having. Your listeners wouldn't be here if they weren't interested in the topic or experiencing things for themselves or had an experience for themselves. Get out there, do interviews, do your own work, do your own research. It's just so important to not get caught up in all the noise, because right now it's noisy, and I think it's becoming noisy for a reason. They want it to be noisy. They want everybody confused and at each other and discredit and that's what they want. It's that whole game all over again. And just try to shield that as best you can. That's what I would want everybody to know.
I think that's great advice. Please tell our audience, Katie, where they can find your book, your research, your podcast.
You can find it at my name, Katie Paige, KatiePaige.net. KatiePaige.net.
And your podcast name?
It is on kgradb.com. It's called MUFON What's Up. It's live. It airs live Tuesday nights from 8 to 10 Eastern Time, 6 to 8 Mountain Standard Time. So, you can find that at kgradb.com. MUFON What's Up.
I know you got a book.
Yeah, Letters of Love and Light. You can find that. Letters of Love and Light. It's written in honor of Dr. Leo Sprinkle and all his 40 plus years of hard work and dedication. And you can find that on Amazon and my website. So
now,
thanks, Dave. I hate talking about that stuff.
The most important part, though, is last year you could not make our spaced out, or earlier this year you could not make our spaced out radio party because you had some very formal and family events that you needed to attend.
Yes, but my son graduated high school, and so are you having it again in May?
We are going back in May, but this time we're going to Reno. So can we put
nice.
Katie Paige's name on that list?
I will be in Reno. I like Reno. Yes.
We love it. Anytime.
Love to
See,
be there.
this is how we start, audience, on building it. One person at a time. Katie Paige's name now goes on that list for our Reno fan party, the 3rd annual fan party. The dates are coming soon, and everything's going to be coming up in a big announcement probably within the next month. Katie, much love to you. We will see you again very, very soon, my dear.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Coming up next in hour number 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Then Little Timmy Senor returns with a long UFO report. Yeah, this show just keeps on going on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Well, there's one. We got one person confirmed. Katie Paige. All right. I'll be right back, guys. All right. What do you say, people? It's been a good night so far, hasn't it? Little Timmy Senor coming up soon. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone, Louie with the hat trick, Noble Patrick, Android, Paramarv, W. Decker ×2, Smitty, AA Ron, Debster, Derek, and Free Your Mind for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. So thank you so much for the super chats. Also, we have our Patreon Space Travelers Club now available. We have started it as of tonight, and we are going to be offering, we got some great promos in there. We're going to be offering more and more as we learn how to build it properly and give you the best value and best bang for your buck. And so we'd appreciate the love and support there as well. Join the Space Travelers Club. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we got, what else do we got? If you're not following us on social media, please do so. You know where the links are. Just type in Spaced Out Radio. We are all over the place. And yeah, if you, by the way, have any good ideas that you would like to see added to our Patreon, our Space Travelers Club, let us know. Let us know, because we're not perfect, but we are learning, and we want to know what you want. So make sure you fill that on in when you join, and we will make things happen. The one thing that will never happen here, though, is our archives will always be free. You will never be charged for our archives, unlike other shows. So there you go. There you go. We're going to get going here in 3 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Please join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Radiogenic. Radiogenic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go. It is that time of the night where we ask Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel Among the Missing to come on in and tell us another spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Did you know that wrong GPS directions have gotten people killed in Death Valley? While technology has come a long way, it's essential to remember that there are more dependable options than relying solely on GPS. We've all experienced the frustration of losing GPS signal, especially when navigating unfamiliar areas. However, GPS devices can be highly unreliable and hazardous when driving through Death Valley, potentially threatening safety. GPS systems in the park can be unreliable due to poor cell reception, leading people onto dangerous and non-existent roads. This can result in individuals stranded in extreme heat without cell phone coverage or passing vehicles. Tragically, in 2009, a woman and her 6-year-old child were lost in the desert and were not found in time, sadly resulting in the child's passing away. And now here's some other strange deaths and disappearances. Death Valley's environment is extremely hostile and dangerous, resembling the surface of a deserted, hot planet. Nevertheless, it has drawn many visitors fascinated by its barren and sun-soaked scenery, or the simply curious. However, while many visit the area to explore, some never return. Death Valley has gained a reputation for being a foreboding and hazardous place, notorious for unexplained disappearances and deaths. In 1958, First Lieutenant Paul Byron Whipkey, a young Army pilot, went missing from Fort Ord, California, under mysterious circumstances. He had informed his fellow officers that he would get a drink nearby, but was found hundreds of miles away in Mojave, California, where he checked into a hotel without apparent reason. Why he went to Mojave and how he got there is still unknown. The next day, he reportedly bought 14 gallons of gasoline and then vanished off the face of the earth. The only clue would come 5 weeks later, when California Fish and Game officers found Whipkey's abandoned vehicle in a remote, forbidding region of Death Valley, 15 miles away from the main road and 400 miles from where he had begun his strange journey in Fort Ord. Whipkey's dog tags, suitcase, and other personal belongings were found within, but there was no sign of where he'd gone. The Army claimed he had deserted and died after wandering in the desert. However, there's no solid evidence to support this claim. The soldier's brother, Carl Whipkey, was suspicious of the Army's explanation and their quick actions, such as packing up the soldier's belongings the day after he disappeared. Carl expressed his concerns about the situation. Whipkey's family suspects there may be more to the story, including a possible cover-up. This suspicion is supported by the fact that when Carl Whipkey sought information from the FBI through the Freedom of Information Act, he was informed that all files had been destroyed in 1977 for unknown reasons. Carl expressed frustration with the unresolved case, stating that he would be satisfied if the Army said they could not disclose the information for security reasons. However, until then, the family cannot rule out any possibilities. Before his disappearance, Whipkey developed black moles and warts all over his body without apparent reason. He also frequently felt unwell and displayed changes in his personality, appearing anxious and tense. It was later discovered that his teeth were removed and replaced with dentures. Some believe he may have been a covert agent who found classified information and was silenced. Alternatively, some speculate that he may have been a nerve gas or atomic testing victim and was disposed of secretly. Lastly, some think that extraterrestrial beings abducted him. However, the reason for Whipkey's disappearance still needs to be discovered, as no evidence of him has been found, and all records linked to the case need to be included.
And we say thank you to Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel Among the Missing for taking us on another spooky journey tonight. And we encourage all of you, if you're on YouTube, to go on over and hit subscribe, ring that bell on Among the Missing for more stories just like that. From the missing to the skies above, looking for UFOs, it's little Timmy Senor and the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Always good to see you here, our resident Timbit, as we take a look at the UFO Report. And it's been another long week in the field of ufology. Lots of strange happenings, lots of strange news, including an old story that seems to be popping up again. I mean, man, can this field get any weirder and weirder than it is right now, Tim?
You are so right, Dave. And we talked about this story when it first came out with the images and videos that we're about to talk about. And we scratched our head, but kind of figured it potentially didn't share any relevance to the real truth on what we're looking for here. But the Malaysia Airlines flight, MH370, and the mysterious disappearance. And so the passenger jet disappeared March 8th of 2014 during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The disappearance of the Boeing 777 with the 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board led to a search effort stretching from the Indian Ocean west of Australia to Central Asia. And so the perplexing nature of the loss of the flight is such that it has become one of history's most famous missing aircrafts. And recently, it has made some headlines again, resurfacing on Reddit and the platform formerly known as Twitter, X. And the discussion boards have been talking about this potential video of orbs surrounding the aircraft and the aircraft disappearing. And so it's considered to be satellite imagery, although some research may show that the satellite that supposedly took this image wasn't around in 2014. So potentially debunked here and potentially verified by others who say that this video isn't fake. And they've done some deep dive research to prove that the video itself is at least real. So, Dave, it has us all scratching our heads, and it's resurfacing again and getting a lot of people talking about it. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, this is one conspiracy theory that I love delving into. Okay, because there is points of some strangeness that goes along with this. And I don't know what happened to the flight. I don't personally think that flight crashed into the ocean. I'm not saying aliens took it. I'm not saying that at all. But one of the things I remember about this when it happened, and I reported on it so long ago, was if the plane crashed in the water, okay, back then, there were no waterproof phones. What happens when a cell phone gets wet? It turns off. And yet there were reports going on at that time that cell phones from loved ones were ringing their phones trying to find their missing family members. And it was ringing 4-6 times before going to voicemail. When your phone is off, it goes directly to voicemail. The other interesting part about that is many of these people had Facebook pages, and their Facebook pages showed them that they were online, and that the little green dot beside their name in Facebook Messenger showed them active. Well, if the plane went in the water and the phone was off, how could they ring and how could they be active on Facebook Messenger? Those are two of the mysteries that I don't understand. The other mystery was that there was, I believe, 40 Chinese national counterintelligence agents on that plane heading home after a conference in Kuala Lumpur. Those are people who were into a lot of warfare techniques. What happened to them? Right? Personally, if I were to derive a decision on what happened, I think the plane was diverted to a secret military base of the United States. I don't know what happened to the people. I don't know what's going on. But I do not believe for a second that it was aliens. I don't believe for a second that that plane crashed in the ocean. We would have with the amount of people who have and the amount of ocean that has been covered, we would have found a piece of luggage from that plane. Now, the skeptics will say pieces of the plane have been found. Pieces of the luggage have been found. Where?
Yeah.
Where? Nothing has been confirmed. We have assumed that it came from flight MH370, but nothing has ever really been confirmed. And then the high strangeness behind the fact that it was just weeks later, Another Malaysian Airlines flight was shot down between Ukraine and Russia, killing everybody on board by a heat-seeking missile. What did that have to do with anything? Was that just coincidence? I don't talk a lot of conspiracy theory on this show because I think conspiracy theories are quite dangerous, Tim. They can lead people down rabbit holes that eventually are extremely ugly. But there is something odd with this one that I really, really am curious about.
Indeed.
I don't believe, I mean, do you believe those new videos that are out?
Well, that's a good question. And obviously, we're talking about real flights and real people. And obviously, we think of those people that lost their lives and the families that are left behind. And it's obviously horrible for them to have to go through living through a mystery of not knowing, excuse me, exactly what potentially happened to their family members. So, although we like to talk about potential, theories, we have to consider that there are families left behind here. Now, the satellite video that recently was released has people seemingly blaming an extraterrestrial cause, and with one person suggesting that the orbs flying around a plane is proof that the MH370 may have been, quote, teleported. And so, if the leaked footage, excuse me, a plane is seen coming into view by a huge cloud on the left, and then we see as it continues its flight path, a small orb appears to come in from the right and zooms past the craft before going up close near the wings. And soon it's joined by two more orbs, and the trio move in a circular motion around the entire plane. And when the plane approaches the cloud, a strong flash strikes, and the plane, along with the three orbs, disappear in the sky. And so while some people said the footage was fake and created using CGI and 3D animation, others disagreed and analyzed the footage in detail, adding credence to the theory that potentially these three large objects spotted near the Malaysian airliner flight path were not fakes, but actually real. And the blurry images, although they were taken by satellite, could potentially show something extraordinary taking place. And so it's really hard to analyze, with only the available information. However, it is compelling, but I think there'd need to be a lot more analysis done before you could jump to a conclusion like the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I mean, it is incredible footage to view. You and I scrutinized it over and over, Dave, when we first saw it months ago. And again, revisiting it now, it's just as confounding and frustrating, really, because proper analysis really can't be done. Scrutinizing everything from the source to frame by frame analysis of what appears to be just bizarre objects moving in synchronicity around this plane before a flash of light, and literally all the objects disappear. It's leaving me incredulous. And honestly, if the research does pan out that this is real, it's a real head scratcher, because I don't think that we as humans have technology that does anything like that.
See, the interesting part about this, there's an alleged rumor, of course, as a lot of UFO stories are, Tim, that this almost exact same thing happened to a B-52 bomber during the Vietnam War, where all of a sudden they were surrounded by UFOs, and that B-52 ended up crashing in the jungles of Vietnam. And it was believed that it was taken down by some sort of UFO presence. So, I mean, to have this drawn, and there have been other videos of helicopters, of propeller planes that all of a sudden are surrounded by these orbs of light and then just vanish into thin air, this ball of light seems to open up and they vanish into it. And this could be, I think the videos we're seeing are not real of this, but maybe this has happened. Maybe that's one of the explanations to where we see a lot of these disappearances in places like the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, we all remember Flight 19, that they were so discombobulated by the weather, none of their gears or monitors were working, or pardon me, back then dials were working due to some sort of magnetic interference that seemed to put them off course. And to this day, 70 years later, it's still an open mystery as to where these planes actually went down, if they in fact went down in the Bermuda Triangle. So there is history.
Absolutely. And also consider the fact that Foo Fighters got their term during, I believe, World War II, where pilots were seeing balls of light and they were chasing them. And literally dogfights were taking place where our military and our opposition's military were chasing these balls of light all over. And they didn't know if they were theirs or ours or what they were. And they were termed Foo Fighters, and perhaps the same thing as what we're seeing here today. I just love the fact that we can kind of prove that it's not our opposition, can't we? If we're seeing the same thing today that we were seeing back previous to our high technology capabilities during World War I and II.
Well, I mean, we got about 3 minutes to go here, so we might as well continue on this topic. But I mean, conspiracy theory aside, if these videos are real, this is an absolute mind-blowing situation that an aircraft can disappear like that. Okay, next question would become, where did it go? Where did it get taken? Okay, where did it vanish off to? Did it go into a different time zone? Looking back at that 1984 television show about the USS Nimitz that went into that portal and showed up in World War II right before Pearl Harbor. Is that what happened? There's so many different theories that could trigger the conspiracy theorist out there regarding this. I don't know what to think. Yeah. I just, in my non, and I'm going to quote this, non-expertise, there would have been something showing up in the ocean. We haven't found it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on the connection and the potential of what took place historically with the Philadelphia experiment? I mean, is that something that really took place? Did a battleship really disappear and reappear with parts and components of the ship melting with the crew?
Well, the funny part about that is Jessica Jones from the Cryptid Report was actually in Montauk this past weekend looking for the USS Eldridge, which allegedly makes an appearance every 20 years off the shores of Montauk. Now, they were out there looking for it. I don't know if it actually showed up. Okay, but it's around this time of year where it's allegedly seen. Now, the funny story about the Eldridge is the Eldridge, I believe, hasn't been scrapped yet. It was sold off to, I believe, an Asian or a Southeast Asian company or country, and it was used as some other type of ship, not a warship, but a supply type ship for a private company. And I believe that it's never been scuttled or retired as of yet. So it could still be sailing out there. So the fact that the Eldridge, appears due to the Montauk project and the Philadelphia experiments, it's kind of interesting to see that turn. And I could see where you would draw a potential conclusion between the two. The Final Countdown was the name of that show, by the way, where the aircraft carrier went into that time warp and ended up in World War II, just as the Japanese were about to invade Pearl Harbor. So, I don't know, Tim. This is one of those creepy stories that I think is going to be a conspiracy theory for the next 50, 60 years. We're not going to know the answer. There's a lot of brilliant technology and a lot of brilliant people who have studied this, and nothing has come out solid on it yet. So that tells me something strange has happened. When we return on the UFO report, because we got little Timmy Senor here right to the top of the hour, we're going to get to scientists at Fermilab close in on a fifth force of nature. What's that all about? And how can a UFO whistleblower keep security clearance? Yeah, we're going to touch that too on Spaced Out Radio with Tim Senor and the UFO Report coming up next.
Oh man, you're like a kid with his pocket money burning a hole in his pocket
With
every
what?
time. Just every time I can see it, you're just I
love that story.
It's such a good story. Yeah.
So the big question, Tim, if a UFO landed in little Timmy Senor's backyard,
Again,
would you
no, I'm
walk
just kidding.
onto it? Would you walk onto it?
Yeah. 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 I don't think I'd have an option, but yeah. I mean, at this point I would just really want to film it. I just feel like I'll go with you, but you have to let me film it and keep the footage. Live stream it to my YouTube channel. Come on, work with me. Need to share. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to take extra shorts. But I think I would go.
So we restarted our ghost tours this past Saturday night.
Yes. And
what a success it was. We had 68 people on the tour.
Whoa, that's twice as much as what you guessed it would be.
I was thinking 30 to 35, maybe 40. Okay. We had 68 people.
What?
And we donate all the money back to the museum because it's a nonprofit museum. Tim, you've seen how beautiful it is there. And we were able to raise on that first tour $1,750 for the museum.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I told the organizer, well, I'm the organizer, but the president, the president.
I do.
Kelly.
Yeah.
I told her, for all those people who were bashing us previously on the board, I said, throw that money on your table and tell them to shove it up their ass.
Oh, right.
Totally did. She goes, you're just not going to let that go, are you? I said, no, not until half of them are gone.
And that's Canadian. So think how big those bills are. It'd be really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
But it was nice. And I have a feeling I don't think we'll get 68 on our next tour on the 26th, but I think we're going to be close.
Maybe more.
And I hope not. That was hard. That was really hard.
I'll bet. So you had a massive crowd up in that area that we were in?
In the post house.
Wow.
Where the Blue Man is.
Oh my God.
On my tour, we had 2 people get cobwebbed in the face.
Yeah.
Which is like ectoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
We had Willie come out and play, gave one of the this young psychic lady a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Mary came out to play. It was fantastic.
I have a question for you. Have you been up on the catwalk?
We don't take anybody up on the catwalk during the tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had remember where we saw something in the back corner there?
Yeah.
That we definitely got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell them though. Don't ever show them, because I will pay the price.
Yeah, we won't tell the ghosts that we captured them.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, yeah, that was kind of cool.
Amazing. That is an active area, and I'm not even somebody that knows any better, but
Yeah.
we had so much luck everywhere there. I must just assume that that's an active area.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't scary though. Like it was, some moments were, but like yeah, it was just kind of like things happening around you. You don't even like, I don't know. I didn't feel the fear factor I thought I would.
No, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, and a lot of positive comments, a lot of
Good.
photographs taken. We opened up a fifth building on the tour, the Ice House.
Oh, awesome.
So
A
that was
lot of mists can be captured there. You see a lot of mists.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you liked it there. Hey, I want to say a big thank you to T-Bone, Louis with the hat trick, W. Decker ×2, Paramarv, Smitty, Android, Noble Patrick, Free Your Mind, Derek, Ron, and Debster for the amazing super chats. Also, our Space Travelers Club is now open on Patreon. We'd love it if you join that club and help us improve it for you. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. And if you want to join the Space Travelers Club, head on over to Patreon. All right, here comes little Timmy Senor and the UFO report. Science may have made a big finding coming up here. All right, Tim, I'm not sure I fully understand this one, so I'm going to let you break it down, and then we're going to chat about it.
Absolutely. So they're subatomic particles. They're called muons, and they're all over the place. A brand new substance that they're finding evidence for. And so it's a subatomic particle called a muon, and they're not behaving in the way predicted by the current theory of subatomic physics. So scientists believe that the unknown force could be acting on muons, and this unknown force is what we're going to be talking about a little bit. So more data will obviously be needed to be confirm the results, but this is actually the second set of results that we're getting to and from this new revolution in physics coming from actually the US Particle Accelerator facility. And so it's called Fermilab. And they build on results that were initially announced in 2021, in which Fermilab team first suggested the possibility of a fifth force of nature. And since then, the research team has gathered more data and reduced the uncertainty of their measurements by a factor of 2. And so in the experiment with the catchy name G-2, the researchers accelerate the subatomic particles called muons at around, the subatomic particles called muons around a 15-meter diameter ring, where they are circulated at about 1,000 times at nearly the speed of light. The researchers found that they might be behaving in a way that can't be explained by the current theory, which is called the Standard Model, because the influence of a new force of nature. And so just very briefly, I'll explain what a muon exactly is. And so in simple terms, muons can ionize any kind of matter as they pass through it. And so the electrons are produced by this ionization. These these electrons can be detected, and we can detect them with devices called an atomic clock or a muon detector. And so using this device, you can predict energy release as it passes through. And what we're discovering is that that predictability factor is shifting, and we're starting to see that there may be a new uh, element or form of energy acting on these muons. And so we're able to use these detectors to detect this new form of energy, if that makes any sense.
So what does this all mean? Is this more of a physics thing? Is it more of a chemistry? Is it more about how biology reacts? How are we looking at this?
Geophysics, right? So it's something that we're learning as earth physics, something that's acting upon the earth, acting upon the gravity. So it's basically, we know that gravity is a force, and this is basically a new force that we're able to detect with how muons interact with it. And so we use a muon detector, basically, to analyze the activity of the muon, and you can see that there's this mysterious force acting on it. And it's that new mysterious force that we're so interested in, because it's like discovering gravity, if you will. And so we don't know exactly what this force is yet. And so we're very much on the brink of discovery on that. And so we'll keep listening to what comes from Fermilab, and we'll find out a little bit more as it comes at us, if you will.
How do we use the force, Tim? How do we
Exactly.
use the force?
Well, potentially we could use it to create a very new form of energy that we could use, anti-gravity, that sort of thing. Potentially. I mean, there's all kinds of uses for a new um, kind of energy, or a new kind of anti-gravity, or a new control over another energy force. There's a lot of potentials there. I'm obviously throwing a lot of stuff at the wind there that is potential.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still just trying to figure out, you know, how will this affect humanity? Science isn't my strength, as you know.
Right. Right. And so we use super colliders to discover new interactions on a subatomic level, on a very small level, if you will. And so we're analyzing how things interact on the moment of impact sometimes, or just at how they move when they're highly sped up, and then they're interacted with by something that is actually radiating from space, and it penetrates all the way through matter, comes down, and it penetrates everything, these muons. And so we can determine a constant stream of muons, and we can predict that. So now if we see something interact with that predictability, and we're like, what is that force? That's a new force that we're discovering, and we're discovering it on a subatomic level.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to story number 3 here. And this has to do with a lot of what we have been talking about the last 9-10 days regarding whistleblowers. What do you got for us, Tim?
Absolutely. And also, I wanted to bring up another really interesting article, I think, because King Charles is getting in on this conversation and is actually being pressured to release the truth on UFOs, and also called upon to help prepare the religious for the impact of ET life. So not just Grush and the United States are in turmoil on this topic. It sounds like even in Great Britain, they're starting to put the pressure on. And so King Charles is now being called on by the UK government to release more information about UFOs and the possibility of ET life in order to help prepare for the country's first contact with aliens. And so the king, like his late father, Prince Philip, has an interest in UFOs. And according to Mark Christopher Lee, whose documentary God versus Aliens examines the impact the discovery of ET beings would have on religion. And so Lee argues that Charles, as the head of the Church of England, has a duty to prepare the millions of followers of the church around the world for the impact of disclosure, and that we are not the only sentient life in the universe. So getting the king involved early on in his career as king. Dave, what are your thoughts getting the crown involved early on this topic?
There is a large history of ufology in the last 100+ years within the royal family, going back to Lord Mountbatten, where apparently he watched a UFO land on his property. And I believe he was a great uncle or an uncle for Prince Charles, brother to Prince Charles' father. Don't quote me on that, but there is a family lineage where there was an alleged landing on one of their properties at one of their castles, and this humanoid came out wearing overalls, okay, wanting to say hello, and then just as quickly got back in his ship and left. And Prince Philip, the king's father, has also been seen in photographs carrying UFO books. This is a subject that is very intrigued the royal family for a long time. I think if he decides to get into this, it would be probably more powerful than when Pope Francis said a number of years ago that if alien life does exist out there and they are visiting Earth, that he would be more than happy to baptize them in the name of Christ. Okay, so it's very interesting to see how this plays out. Okay, but the big questions that need to be asked, this is why I hate this topic in mainstream media. These moron reporters don't know how to cover this story. They need to be asking questions. Why would the king now be mentioned with this topic? Why would the king be talking about this subject? Why should he be preparing Parliament or the church for this? Let's get to, when we talk about big questions that need to be asked, these are big questions. It's not just reporting on the story by the BBC where the king should be getting the Parliament prepared and the Church of England prepared for this. Why? What's happened? What have you learned? But it seems like more and more this subject is getting to the ears and the eyes of people who need to know about this if they haven't already, like your government in the United States, like the Canadian government, the King of England. Okay, I think it's great. I do. I think this is a positive move forward, but is he part of the cover-up? Is he going to allow the Church of England to know what he knows? Because we do know that this subject will affect every religion, positively and negatively. Where does he go with it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's an attempt to appear progressive, right? And an understanding of current topics, at least. And the fact is that we know that they refer immediately to David Grush and what is taking place in the United States right now in this conversation. So I think it's very obvious that once again, the world is looking to the US for lead. And I think that's great because it's a conversation that needs to be had no matter what side of the story you fall on. It needs to be talked about. So I also find it interesting that the recent Intercept article, in an attempt to perhaps out David Grush and his the fact that he was able to keep his security clearance after a psychiatric detention. Personally, I felt that was more a feather in his cap. Like this wasn't a negative in my opinion, when I first read it, I was like, yeah, that's great. Why would he? Fantastic. Like they actually did something right this time. So when I was reading these stories and everyone was really like, see, this is them fighting back. I was like, well, if this was their attempt at pushback, it really was obviously them shooting directly into their own foot, because all of the information that was revealed really just supports and humanizes this man and shows how he lives a normal life like all of us, has ups and downs, and is still willing to come forward no matter what his past was, to come forward with what his truth was. Showed incredible bravery. And I think the fact is he knew that this was going to come out. He gave us the breadcrumbs, right? And so I don't think that he had any fear of repercussion on this kind of information. I think that he and his family are probably already steadfast. So this kind of information really was, if anything, just more wind in the sails for this whole case.
Well, we had Bruce Claggett on from BFC Communications, who's been a lifelong journalist. He's, for, people out there, just for integrity, he is a friend of mine. Okay. We work together in Vancouver, and he is somebody that if I have journalism questions, that is who I go to. For over 30 years in the business, plus he's been a journalism instructor at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. Okay, I trust his word on how journalism works and how everything goes with the stories. And I agree with you about the whole David Grush thing. I'm still a little bit, disgusted by the fact that there are people out there who have no clue how journalism works, who are calling what Ken Klippenstein did as high quality journalism. No, you took a cheap shot at the guy's mental health. If he was any sort of threat, he would have had his security clearance revoked. They're not just going to say, oh, you were in a psych ward because you were having extremely dark thoughts that you needed a little bit of a mental timeout. So now we're going to ruin your life. No, they kept him there because he was a professional. Okay. People, and I know people who have vetted David Grush and say that he is an upstanding American who will do anything to help his country. Okay. And I think patriotism is a word that is loosely thrown around, but he's that type of guy. And the fact that they did not take him or his security clearance away, and they still had him working on the Woo desk, which is one of the most secretive desks out there, says something to me. And if people can't see that, but all they want to see is the guy when he was at his lowest point in his life, I think that says a lot of words about those people who think that that was actually news.
Right.
A
Right.
person's struggles are not news.
100%. And the Interceptor article was obviously biased, considering a very loosely, I'll term it an op-ed piece. He was potentially pointed to the information from one source or another. And he openly admits, the author of this article openly admits that he doesn't believe in the possibility of UFO life visiting Earth. So he doesn't believe anything that is being brought forward in any of the hearings. So he was already prepared with his own ammunition to, reveal that this was not something he agreed with one way or another.
And
And
I
he
brought
did it in a very
sorry.
vicious way.
Sorry for cutting you off there.
No, that's fine.
I brought that up with Bruce Claggett on a previous show just a couple days ago. Okay. Where I gave the example. Tim, I mean, and everybody of our audience knows what I think of the game of soccer. Okay. But when I was forced, literally with a gun to my head, I'm teasing on that. Okay. To cover a soccer game or a soccer practice, even though I didn't like it, I still had to remain professional and cover at a neutral level. I still had to do my job because that's what I got paid for. My opinion of soccer was irrelevant. And this is where I don't understand where Ken Klippenstein is coming from, because in the many interviews that he has done, one of the first things he says is he doesn't believe in the UFO story. He thinks it's garbage. So when you think something is garbage, and like you said, going into a story bias, you're already tainting your readers. You're already tainting the subject matter. Your opinion as a journalist should never matter. It should never be a part of the story. And in return for this clickbait type article, knowing that people were going to read it on the Intercept and read Ken Klippenstein, they gained a bunch of new followers. Whether they agreed with Klippenstein or not, the move on a business level has been successful.
Yeah. And Ken made a public request for information on Grush via his Twitter account. And when he made his article, he only told the negative stories that were brought forward. He claims that there were positive ones, but can't seem to think of any. That sounds like somebody with a heavy bias that was only focusing on the negative.
Absolutely. It's you know, it's shady journalism. It really is shady journalism that I don't agree with. I don't agree with a lot of journalism today because of the way journalists have put themselves in any type of story. Okay. Journalism, and maybe I'm old school, is still down the road. You are the referee for people. You are their eyes, their ears. You're the judge and you're the jury as well. But you can never be the executioner. Klippenstein tried to be the executioner in this. And that was wrong. And it's too bad that that article is going to get a bunch of clickbait readers now who are going to read an extremely one-sided op-ed piece and not true journalism in what he was trying to perform. And to use someone's health records, that's the lowest of the low when it comes to journalism.
That's right. We're seeing a lot of journalists picking and choosing what they're publishing nowadays, and that just needs to stop. Publish the whole story.
There was an article today in Canada where 4 of the major news outlets all had the same lead. And it's all over Twitter right now. And it's all against or supporting a government that paid off its journalists up here in Canada. That's what's interesting. Tim Senor, another great report. Thank you so much. Thank you to Steve Stockton for a great story. And our guest tonight, Katie Paige, talking UFOs all night long. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. that is done. That is done. What was the password tonight? Hold on. The password was radio, as in spaced out radio, Genic, Genic. Radiogenic. Radiogenic.com. I'm sure it's out there. Any questions for old Davey while we're sitting here intimately all alone, you and I? Eventually, you're going to get to use the passwords in the Space Travelers Club. We haven't figured out what for yet, but when we do, only the Space Travelers will get to use it. I never watched Blade Runner 2049. I don't watch a lot of movies. I really, really do not watch a lot of movies. But I am a Travis Willier Moose fan. So that is kind of cool. I don't know what we're going to do for a draw. I really don't. Scott Rosen, I believe you as well that the mutilations have something to do with abductions. What do you might think might be the best way to cover UFO topic? They can't. They don't know how. They're gonna muddy their way through it. I'm only taking questions tonight. All right, I'll try and find you a giraffe. Live. Let's go to El Donio. Oh, you're in luck. You're in luck. You are so in luck. The first poll that I made. Look at that. Giraffes. Do you think aliens have been leaking real info through the years, movies, books? No, I think those in the know have been doing that. I really do. I mean, there's little things in every movie. Take the original Independence Day with Area 51. The little things like that. The aliens in the test tubes. We've heard all that. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's another one. That seems to have a lot of truth to it. Derek, how many bed springs have you popped in your life? Never, man. Pete Leibel, yes, we are live. Corey, Dave, are you familiar with electrogravitic propulsion military aircraft? I know that they allegedly may or may not exist. Key there is may or may not. I think that is a technology that is being worked on. I think that's probably the next wave, that we are probably not too worried about stealth technology. Major Lee, advice on mental health within the UFO phenomena. How do I keep safe? That is actually, Lee, that is actually a great question. Because I am somebody who can get sucked into that drama stuff very easily. I have stopped watching a lot of different shows and podcasts that I used to do. Okay, like I just cannot do it anymore. I try and stay off Twitter as much as I possibly can because I don't think it's healthy. So and it's a funny thing too, and it's a hard thing for me because I believe it or not, I hate conflict. I absolutely hate conflict. And we are a UFO society that is willing to eat their own. We're a real aha Katya type of society that is, always looking to get, find that person who sticks gum underneath the diner table. We're worried about comments that happened 12, 15 years ago. There is quite a cancel culture going on both sides of the UFO story. People trying to, cancel culture Mick West or Stephen Greenstreet or Steve Cambion or John Greenwald or many others. But you also have those same people trying to cancel culture others in the field. Okay. And I think it's really tearing the community apart. I really do. And I have friends on both sides and that I highly respect on both sides. And honestly, it doesn't make me feel good at night. So what I've actually stopped doing is I've had to stop on a lot of things because I just don't personally agree with it. I'm not going to sit there and cause more drama by telling my friends, hey, you need to stop that. You look like a fool. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to do what they feel is right. What I have to try and do is make sure that I don't put myself in that position to react to things I agree or disagree with. And trust me, that's very hard for me right now, especially with the political environment up here in Canada on so many different issues that need to be addressed. And it's not just UFOs. Okay. Where I've found myself, accidentally tweeting some political stuff on the SOR account. Well, the SOR account isn't for that. It's for Spaced Out Radio, but I get caught up in the moment, just like many people do. You want things to improve, but At the same time, you want what was good to remain in the past to remain. And it's just really tough on me sometimes, you know? And the unfortunate part about it is it seems like sometimes the loudest, most vocal voices out there are the ones that can be the most dangerous because they don't, whether they've been burnt or whether they uh, don't have a backbone or whether they're pissed off or whether they're, there's a group of people out there who believe they're the UFO police. And that's tough on a lot of people because all you got to do is tweet the wrong thing or say, you have a paragraph that's 15 sentences long and they're worried about 5 words that you said on line 5 halfway down the page or halfway down the line. That's it. That's all they want to talk about. So it's difficult. It really is. It's a continuous, stressful balancing attack, Lee, that we have to unfortunately go through. And unfortunately, when you put your face on a channel like ours or someone else's, you have to abide by that. You really do. So I don't know if I actually answered your question, Lee, but I try and stay away from it and report on what we're doing and report on what the big news is out there on many different subjects. I know I missed a couple questions here. What do you think? Moody Mongol, what do you think of the Shirley Wright interview about her and Einstein? She was his assistant in the 40s, being taken to see Roswell craft and aliens. I've only heard portions of that. I'm probably not the best to comment on that. I don't like dodging questions, but that one is probably best to ask someone who's more familiar with that. So I apologize. Scott Rosen, anything on the Philadelphia experiment? Ask Jessica Jones this weekend. She was in Montauk looking for the Eldridge. Any other questions, guys? Well, I'm scrolling to see if I missed any. Yeah, the Muon fifth force discovery. Ugh, don't know much about that. I will say this, Derek. He's asking any thoughts on the Orion symbol on the Space Force logo. There is always different meanings. In the patches. So I'm going to bring this up right now. Where is it here? United States Space Force. I believe it's this one. Is it that one? No, that one doesn't have the Orion on it. United States Space Force. Is it that one? I'm just looking for it right now. That ain't it. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. You hit on one of my favorite subjects that I know extremely little about. I'm just trying to find the one with Orion on it right now. Hi, all the world's a stage. Good morning to you. Look at electric cuttlefish, merling it up. We don't even have a merle sighting. Where is it here? Is that the one? Oh, that's a coin. See, they have a bunch of patches out there. But every patch means something different. Like, I'll show you this one. This, whether this is an actual patch or not, or whether this is somebody who made it up, we don't know. I don't know if this is official. No, I'm not going to play that one. So I'm going to show you one here. I can find it here. Here it is. So I'm going to share this tab instead. So it's hard to see, but this patch right here actually, if you can see it, it's an F-117 patch. And if you notice what it says on it, it should be very familiar to you. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm just trying to do too much at once here. Anybody see the familiarity of this one? Okay, so this patch, I wish I could make it bigger. See if I can. How's that playing out? Is that playing out okay? You will notice the saying on top, "We own the night." Okay. Let's see if I do this, if that improves it at all. Okay, so if you look, that's the trails to Baghdad. The red buildings are the buildings of Baghdad. You will notice that Lockheed Skunk Works, that's a skunk right there acting like the angel of death. The F-117 flying in the night. Okay, you got the Persian Gulf there. Operation Desert Storm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, there's always a meaning behind everything on these patches. And so what would the 12 mean? It could mean midnight when they went flying. It might have been that there were 12 craft that took part in that. The number 12 would be significant with the amount of stars on there. The crescent moon, which made the night darker for them to get away. This patch is actually the reason why we use the term "we own the night." But patches, military patches, mean a lot of things. And it's a very interesting study to break down the patches to see what they actually mean. Okay, so here on this one, for instance, you have the F-117 Nighthawk. So on top of the F-117, you have the Nighthawk. These red lines may be radar lines from the ground trying to pick up the aircraft, which it can't. And the 2 stars, I don't know the meaning of them. I don't. So, like I said, everything means something. When it absolutely positively has to be taken out overnight, Team Stealth with an F-117. Right? Here's another "we own the night" over Baghdad. Space Force. Let's check it out. So this is patches. Yeah, these things send me down a rabbit hole. These ones. So there's the Space Force right there. Space Force logo. So let me close some of these tabs. Give me 1 second here, guys. Close Twitter. Close that one. Close that one. All right. Sorry, now I'm a little bit more in control here. So if you count the stars on the Space Force, you have 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You have here the year of its inception, which would be 2019. Department of the Air Force, United States Space Force. You have the globe with the longitudes and latitudes on it. You have the satellite going around, and then you have this, the triangle. What could that mean? What could it stand for? Does it mean we have black triangles, or is it just a different version of the logo that they use? But every patch tells a story. Here's something interesting. Like when you look at this looks like a sword. But if you count the stars, there's 6 stars, 3 on each side. But if you look at these little ripples going around, there's 8 of them. 4 here, 4 here, and you have a star within a star, which makes it 8 stars. Right? So what do the 8 stars stand for? Why is one yellow? What do these little fly's eyes look like? If you look at it with the eyes, this looks like this looks like an eagle. Right? I don't know if you can see my mouse when I'm pointing that out. I should check on that. Hold on. Can you actually see my mouse when I'm going across? I just want to see this. Oh, and it sends me to commercial. That's nice. So let's see. Do you actually see my mouse? Previously, when we used to do this, you used to be able to see the mouse. What do you do? Okay. So you see kind of the eagle face here? Then you got the Earth's grid with latitude and longitude. Let's check out more patches. Let's try it out. Area 51 patches. Let's go. There we go. Let's try this one. A lifetime of silence behind the green door. So you notice the green door is a different color. You'll notice on North America, the area of Nevada or the testing range is red. You'll notice this green goblin guy with red eyes. Holding a sword. This one's basically saying that, okay, so this one, according to Amazon.com, Air Force Area 51 Black Ops 10 Cap Special Recon Satellite NRO. If this patch is real, what does the green door mean? It might be the green door to their building where special operations are. Okay. Here's an interesting one. What do you notice on that? We have 3 in-flight refueling aircraft with a black triangle. Now, the question is this a real patch or not? I mean, people can make these things up too, right? There's one. Janet. That's obviously a prop. That's a great patch. Hey, Gailey, how you doing? The patches say a lot. They're not all boring like that one. So yeah, you get the point. You get the point. I'll bring this up. Hold on. This is the Apollo 20 patch. Right here. You're looking at the lunar surface. The Apollo 20 LEM, the landing surface, trying to lift up the alleged craft that was crashed there. If that's real. I mean, here's the Apollo 11 right there. That one's obviously been touched up. So, there you go. Always look at the patches. Always. All right. It is my time to call it the night because I have a lot of things I need to do tomorrow. Big thank you. Or who's on tomorrow night? Ismael Perez, our cosmic origin. We're going to get into ET life and all that kind of stuff. How long have we been visited for? Everything that's going to be a real interesting show. So you want to make sure you check that on out tomorrow night. So that'll be good. Big thank you tonight to our super chatters. Louis with a hat trick, W. Decker ×2, T-Bone, Android, Paramarv, Smitty, Super Deb, AA Ron, Derek, Free Your Mind, and Noble Patrick. Thank you for the love and support. Thank you to everybody who gave us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Don't forget after the show to leave a comment. Let us know what you think. And if you're going to, we'd love to have you join the Space Travelers Club. Go to Patreon, type in Spaced Out Radio or Space Travelers or SOR Space Travelers, and you'll come up to it right there. We'd love to have you join up because we're going to have some real cool stuff coming up for you guys very, very soon. And much love to each and every one of you. We appreciate you. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.